Well, good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. Welcome in to On the Hunt tonight, where we are going on the hunt tonight for the Georgia werewolves. And man, there have been a rash. Is it brash or rash? I've been saying rash all day. A rash of, it's a rash, it's an itchy one, of werewolf reports all over the state of Georgia. These are going back to 2023. We're going to be talking about tonight. I have my really good friend, Mr. Kenny Thibodeau, aka Starfox of Midnight Lycanthropy and the North American Dogman Project, here with us tonight. And he is going to be talking with me tonight about all of these werewolf reports. I live in the state of Georgia. I do a lot of research, field investigations, field research in the state of Georgia. I was just in the woods today, actually, and some of the areas that have had these werewolf sightings recently, and dogman sightings as well, are in some of my research areas. Okay, so this is very important for myself and for the people on my teams, and people that I do investigations with that even aren't on my teams, but are just acquaintances that do research in these areas. It's important that we all pay attention tonight to what we're going to be talking about, where these are. I've mapped them out on maps, so you guys are going to get a full disclosure tonight on Georgia werewolves and dogmen, sightings and reports and encounters, one of which is quite terrifying. And it does involve a child who survived. Okay, full disclosure with that before we get it going. This kid is alive today, but however, quite terrified. And that was up in Rome, Georgia. Rome, Georgia, right there beside Corpsewood Manor, what I talk about pretty often, not too far from Chattanooga and Chickamauga, where Old Green Eyes resides as well. So you guys buckle up, go get the popcorn. We've got a lot to discuss tonight, and it's going to be fantastic. If you guys would like to check me out on my social media sites, please go over to my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. I have an archive of all my shows over there, and a calendar of events. And that does include I think my next one will be the Myrtle Beast. Okay, the Myrtle Beast Conference. I think it's the Myrtle Beast Bigfoot Fest. And I erased the flyer, y'all. But anyways, you can go to my social media or go to my website. And I think that's May the 9th and 10th. All day on the 10th in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. If you guys want to come out and see us over there, we're going to have a really great conference, a Bigfoot festival on the beach. Okay, talking about beasts. That is confusing, by the way. Oh, here it is. I found it. This is it. It's got some of your usual suspects over there. Of course, we have Mike Familant coming down from Sussex County. I think he lives in New Jersey. He's a Bigfooter out of there. He's on a nationwide tour talking about Bigfoot at local libraries right now, and doing some Bigfooting all over the East Coast at the moment. And we got Matthew Delph, David Pardue, Dr. Stamey, and the North Carolina Investigates guys are going to be there as well, including our good friend Harley Owens, who was my guest a little while back here on The Hunt. He's out of East Tennessee. I can't wait to get out in the woods with Harley. We may have some things planned here in the future, but that's all classified for now, and you'll hear about it after we get back. Okay, so come see us at that. It's going to be a really good time. And then I've got the Full Disclosure Now conference in St. Pete, Florida. That's in July. Okay, and a couple of other events. Y'all got to go look at my calendar. Okay, well, let's get to our program tonight, because I have Kenny here, aka Starfox, and yeah, like I said, we got a lot to talk about. Okay, so the North American Dogman Project had an alarming string of strange werewolf sightings that surged throughout the year in 2023 across the state of Georgia. Most reports were merely sightings, but one case involved an entire family and a young boy who was grabbed as his family ran from a 7 to 9 foot tall werewolf creature on their wooded property. After the father shot the beast, their family was stalked by a pack of what appeared to be dogmen or werewolves for hours that night. On this episode, now we got Kenny Starfox Thibodeau of Midnight Lycanthropy, and we are going to be diving into all of this tonight. Kenny is a field investigator and representative of the main chapter of the North American Dogman Project. He is an actor, journalist, designer, videographer, Dogman historian, and author. You guys can find him over on his YouTube channel. That's Midnight Lycanthropy. And I make an appearance over there every now and then. And please help me welcome to the show my good buddy, Mr. Kenny Starfox. What's up? What's up, Kenny?
It's good. How are we doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm good. I'm doing excellent. I'm so glad to have you here. This is going to be a really interesting show tonight. You put a lot of work in over at your YouTube channel, The Midnight Lycanthropy, and at the North American Dogman Project. So kudos to you, and thank you for being here.
Such kind words. I appreciate you. Right back at you. You're always firing out stuff as well. That's pretty much all I do is edit, record, find great hosts and guests, hang out with my squirrel, and pretty much repeat.
Your squirrel. Y'all, Kenny has a pet squirrel, by the way. Okay. The cutest little pet squirrel you've ever seen. And what is your squirrel's name?
Swift.
Swift, like Taylor.
Nah.
Taylor Swift.
No, I actually, long story short, is she used to just burst by all the other squirrels outside, and she just had so much agility. So I was like, yeah, she's swift like the wind, and just kind of stuck with her.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll remember it always as Taylor Swift. Okay. That's how I will remember your squirrel's name. And I love that. I know. I love it. But Kenny, tell me a little bit before we get going tonight with some of these reports that we're going to discuss. How did you get interested in the Dogman phenomenon, and what brought you to this point in time, in space and time, with you being part of the North American Dogman Project?
Valid questions right there. Long story short, it's just like any other 11-year-old. I always had interest in sharks and dinosaurs, and well, of course, some of my family members got me introduced into this really old school VHS that had what is now debunked that looked to be a plesiosaur fin. Also, it had a rendition of what this dinosaur species potentially could have looked like if it didn't have human encroachment, etc., and really didn't go extinct. This is when I was super young, so it kind of got me intrigued right there because you had dinosaurs, whether it was potentially cryptids or not. So here I was 11, and now fast forward, I was just given a really good opportunity to help try and figure out what's going on with missing people in the national forests, as well as what's occurring near cave systems. I have a great squad such as yourself over at the Midnight Society. I have a science team now. Pretty much I'm just trying to help find people as well as trying to bring clarity to a topic that I'm just as confused as everybody else is,
Right. Oh my gosh, join the crowd. We're all a little bit confused over here. And but there's no doubt in my mind, and with my boots on the ground field research, there's a lot of strange creatures out there that aren't supposed to exist, that are all in our fairy tale books, that we've been told since we were children that these are all fake and they're just monsters. It's all fairy tales, right? But we're finding that it's not. And you of all people, you are one of the historians, right, for the North American Dogman Project. Of course, you've broken off and done your Midnight Lycanthropy on your channel on YouTube, but you're still very much into the research with the Dogman phenomenon. I know tonight we're kind of going towards the werewolf reports that you guys have had. Now, werewolves and Dogman too, by the way. It's like, well, you guys, when somebody calls or sends in a report to the North American Dogman Project, if they say werewolves, do you just assume that they mean a dogman, or do you still look into it, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Definitely still look into it for sure. And that's a very valid question because there's a lot that goes into that topic. And as I was talking to some of my hosts and friends earlier, I'm more confused than I probably ever was. I have a great entourage and knowledge now to try and bring a little bit more clarity to the topic, yet I feel like I'm back at the start of the race before when I actually thought I had some good ideas or consensuses as to what was occurring. Yet now, like I said, I'm right back at square one, just really deep down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens when you start doing really deep dives into these mysteries of the world. You think you got it all figured out, and then the true wisdom, I can see when somebody has truly has some wisdom when they realize they don't have anything figured out. Okay. And so that I really do appreciate that actually about you and being honest about it. Like I am, it's like, we really don't know what's going on, but however, people are constantly sending in reports to you guys. And I mean, the amount of reports of dogmen and werewolves all over the country is absorbent, is huge. Okay, huge. And the North American Dogman Project does have a wonderful database of reports that go way back. I remember my friend Grumpy, Bob Wilson, the head of one of my teams, who passed away last year. He actually was the Southeastern, I think he was like Region 5 or something, one of their directors for a long time. And he took some of the reports that are actually there on your website here out of Georgia. And one of them did involve, they call it, I never really said the name, but I'll say it now because I don't live there anymore. The North Paulding Dogman. Okay. And that's something that was up in North Paulding County, about 10 miles, not even like 10 miles from the Etowah Indian Mounds. And you guys get a lot of reports of dogmen near Indian Mounds and stuff too, right? I mean, it's endless. I mean, how many reports, I was going to ask you, how many reports do you think there have been of dogmen since you've started doing work with the North American Dogman Project?
Again, great question. I unfortunately can't give you an exact number. I can give you a guesstimation because when I do throw out, real numbers, I like to be accurate. Put it this way, at the moment, the digital book I have is up to 551 pages, and I still have probably 65 emails at the moment I need to filter through for Jody and the North American Dogman Project,
Mm-hmm.
and then probably another 8 to 10 screenshots in my phone that I need to update as well.
Oh man, do people send you guys pictures pretty often too?
Yeah, we definitely get a ton of pictures. Unfortunately, a lot of times they're questionable, meaning anything from just common misunderstandings or misidentifications all the way to, I don't know, this individual thought they were seeing something in this image, yet everyone else, including myself, can't see it. Not going to say it's not there, but just going to say that the ones we work with, we're not seeing it. So you get a lot of things, but every once in a while you get that money shot that's pretty legit for sure.
Oh, yeah. The money shot. Speaking of the money shot over here, we got Greg Smith in the chat tonight. What's up, Greg? Greg is with Backwoods Cryptids. I got to hang out with him at the East Tennessee Squatch Out last year with his sweet wife, Kelsey. And so thank you for being here, Greg. He says there was a dogman sighting super close to my home that I talk about on my YouTube channel. That's cool. And so, yeah, Backwoods Cryptids on YouTube. You guys go over there and subscribe to Greg's channel. He's a great researcher, boots on the ground. He's been on the show before. We talked about old green eyes out of the Chickamauga battlefield area in North Georgia. And tonight, we are going to be actually talking about some of these reports we've gotten from that same area. And the reason that I actually said the name of that dogman, right where I used to live a long time ago, the North Paulding werewolf or the North Paulding dogman, it's not very far from not only Chickamauga, where Old Green Eyes is here, and this dogman sighting that Greg has taken, this encounter, but also what we're going to get into in a little while tonight, not right off the bat, but we've got the Rome. That's where that werewolf attack was, just north of Paulding. We have what I've got all sorts. Wait, what are the other ones? Oh, I wanted to talk also about the Corpsewood Manor as well tonight. And let's see where else. Dalton, Georgia. We've got some werewolf reports in Habersham County, Tifton, and I guess that's about it. Rome but Paulding. It's all kind of clumped there. And I'm going to show these on a map in just a second. Kenny, what do you think is going on here? Why are there so many? Why was there an uptick in werewolf and dogman reports out of Georgia in 2023?
Wow. Again, Great question. That's a deep one right there. And to everyone in the
Yeah.
comments, I would love to show you my squirrel, but there's two reasonings. One, she's asleep and I really don't want to wake her up. But two, just because technically, long story short, she really isn't supposed to be more or less my pet. But shoot me a DM on
Oh
Facebook.
yeah.
I will gladly show you my little sidekick. I just try not to incriminate myself
Oh
publicly.
yeah. We heard about that couple that had that squirrel and the raccoon, I think.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah, no, so
we will not
I
be
prefer
showing
not
it.
to have that happen. But yeah, no, Jessica's definitely seen her a ton for
Yes.
sure.
She's
And like I said,
adorable.
you can shoot me a message on Facebook and I'll gladly share some stuff.
Yes. Yeah, y'all quit asking. We're talking about werewolves tonight, okay? Let's get serious, y'all. Okay.
And
Um,
to answer
yes.
your question now, though, I think
Okay.
I wish I had a better answer, but I'm going to use the term think for sure.
Okay.
That it's starting to lead a lot into the paranormal type supernatural realm, meaning for quite a long time, I really felt like we had a physical flesh and blood thing occurring. Yet when I deal with my friends Lee Hampel and Sophia Bierman down in Wisconsin on Bray Road, they have some stuff that's really bizarre, especially with Lee's tracks. I mean, we're talking about a farm in Wisconsin. Okay, there's not trees around; it just vanishes, literally the middle of the field. There's no objects for it to have jumped on, or also for them to just randomly dig holes. None of this. It's more or less as if they vanished. And I will
Mhm.
continue this, but I saw the comments. Everyone out there, if you just go to my YouTube page, all my stuff is in the description of my page, all my links. And if you just go to my Dogman page through there, you're going to be able to click right on that and get in touch with me for sure. But back to what you had asked, Jessica, I think now there's a lot of evidence just supporting you got some maybe supernatural stuff mixed in with all of this because I don't know how many times I hear people saying that they shoot them and large pieces fall or explode off with no reaction. Just all of this weird and strange stuff. But then you have others that report that it spins around and spits out blood. Yet you look back at Linda Godfrey and she's got reports where something was blue and seemingly not here, but here walking down Bray Road.
Oh.
Yeah, there's just really a lot going on here because
Yeah.
there's a big difference between the skinwalkers and werewolves for sure. But is the dogman here or is it more or less paranormal? That's the question.
Well, that's a good question, and this actually leads us to this. Mark Lynch is in the chat. What's up, Mark? It says with Cryptid Search Investigation (CSI). I got to meet Mark at the Squatch out in East Tennessee as well. So thank you for being here. It says, "What is the technical definition between dogman and werewolf?" Okay, so Kenny, what would be your definition? Because with the North American Dogman Project, I know you and I have talked about this, and you were focusing really more on the dogmen aspect for a long time. I feel like you've gotten a lot of werewolf reports.
Mhm.
What is the difference?
Deep question right there.
That's super
Me,
deep.
well, whether it is here or manifesting, we don't really think the dogman shapeshifts whatsoever. Yet when you look at the skinwalkers, it's
Mhm.
still he or she though on all fours, meaning we think that potentially, yeah, there are some shape shifting aspects that might be occurring there, but it's different than the werewolf. That definitely falls into seemingly a curse, yet also deep witchcraft. Not to say that somebody that has the capability of diving into being a skinwalker couldn't reach that same magic, especially per se if I don't know. We're trying to work on potentially a theory that the skinwalkers might actually be able to. I'm just going to use this term glamour, but I'm not talking about some true blood stuff, but just meaning they can distort their appearance to you. So maybe they are still an indigenous individual that's showing you that they are this large wolf or something. So maybe if they're able to do that, they could distort themselves into a werewolf. Yet you really need the pelt of an animal, okay?
Mhm.
And I really don't see how the average individual, even indigenous or modern day culture, that would be able to get that, because you have to, from all the research that the SS did and all these other individuals that were obsessed with that, you have to manifest these werewolf type things
Right.
from whether it's castle, hauschka, or just dark magic. And when you're manifesting something, that's a little bit different than when you're doing the skinwalking stuff where you have the pelt, you know?
Yes. Okay, that's exactly the answer that I would have given. I mean, not exactly, but close enough. Absolutely. And so, thank you for that. And there's definitely a difference. To me, my answer is there's the dogman, which I think is just it's born a dogman. It's always a dogman. Okay. Um, then there's the werewolves. That is, to me, it's like a human that would transform into a werewolf. Okay, a
Yes.
human. It starts off in human form, and it turns into a werewolf. Okay, that's my definition. Of course, there are people that will argue that. That's just what I know, y'all. Okay, and like Kenny and I said in the beginning, we really don't know 100%, but that's what I think. And I think the werewolves are more like an S walker, as I call it. Now, I do want to address this comment real quick because we're talking about Northwest Georgia and the North Paulding Werewolf or North Paulding Dogman, and Pickett's Mill is in North Paulding. And I want to say, Specialist Ramirez, you obviously know Paulding pretty well, I guess, because that is not too far from where the Paulding Werewolf is. And Pickett's Mill is where I don't know if I think I might have mentioned this on the show before, but when my son was small, I took him to a storytelling walkthrough at Halloween at Pickett's Mill Battlefield, right here where you're talking about, and they had people that were dressed up like Civil War soldiers that were ghosts and all sorts of weird stuff. It wasn't really for little kids. I didn't know that, but I took my kid anyways, and we went. And as we were leaving that night, we were the last group to go through this storytelling haunted forest thing on the battlefield. And as we're leaving this battlefield, where you're saying it's littered with dogmen, which it might be, my son and I heard cannon blasts going off in the battlefield, and we were clearly hearing this as we were leaving, and no one else was even acknowledging it, but the ground was shaking. I mean, it was like the cannons were firing, and it was over and over again. And we got in the car. We were still hearing it in the car, and I thought, man, that's weird. Why would they do that in the middle of the night when we're leaving? Well, it turns out they weren't doing that, Kenny. They weren't doing it. We were hearing like phantom cannon blasts going off as we were leaving that night at that battlefield. So it could be totally covered in dogmen out there because that's where that werewolf has been spotted. Now, I don't think there's just one. Usually, where there's one, there's a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be logical about it, even if something is supernatural, I don't really know how someone could just be seeing the same werewolf over in Europe than all of a sudden over in Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, did they just hop on the plane when they weren't shifting and pop over that quick? Or, I mean, what about when it's simultaneous? And to answer your question as well, with the whole 7 year aspect, I'm not so sure that has anything to play in it. I think maybe in the older days when people didn't communicate enough or consistently, maybe every so long they then linked up and had reports. But my friend Brian Barber, who's actually in the chat right now, and I saw our dwarf and everybody else, much love, I appreciate you. Him and I were just talking about some cases in Ohio tonight that were pretty much back to back, meaning they weren't 7 months apart, that's for sure.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Super fascinating. Yeah. Thank you for being here, Brian. That's awesome. Okay. Well, there's some talk about them being in packs, okay, and dogmen running in packs. How often do you hear about, when I said there's more than one, of course, if there's one, there's probably a bunch. How often do you guys get reports of them running in packs?
Valid question again. We don't have, I mean, not as many per se as them being solo, but you have the infamous Palmyra case up here where it was 4 or 5 of them up in Maine that attacked the Martin family. You have the Toletti family, Dave and Lisa, in the, what was it, Petroga National Park in North Carolina, that said that they saw numerous of them I should say Dave. I don't think Lisa ever saw any of it, but Dave claimed there was 3 or 4 of them running at the back of their RV. Then, you have the Thibodeau case down in Lake Texacoma where they saw 2 of them, but it sounded like there could have been more of them when that group of individuals, those 2 brothers and their friend, were fishing. Yeah, you definitely have some reports of them being in packs. That rings a bell in my head too, where we spoke to, they were younger at the time, but they heard a disturbance off in the field in the distance when they were playing on the deck. They were pretty young, and they looked over and they claimed they saw a group of what looked to be werewolf-like creatures dancing around. One that had what seemingly was a crown on its head, and they went off into the forest. So yeah, you definitely get some reports of them being together for sure. Yet
A
we also
crown? I'm
yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What? Had a crown on its head.
Yeah, like a bone or maybe some branches, which has led us in the direction of thinking maybe some of these goatman type sightings or different cryptids wearing, masks could really be a Sasquatch or a dogman wearing a skull mask. Also, we have reports, like I said, of them wearing crowns to solidify maybe some sort of dominance. Pretty interesting stuff for sure.
Whoa. Okay. We have my good friend David Pardue is in the chat. And what's up? Harley Owens is in the chat too. Hey, Harley. He's talking about the Dogman. I saw definitely felt like it was a chimera that the military had cooked up. Yeah, we talked about that before. Thank you for being here, Harley. And yes, there's such a mix of different types of dogmen and creatures out there. But David was on the show. We've talked about this a couple of times. He's shown us some pictures of what looked like potentially a Bigfoot or some kind of critter. We don't know what it was. It looked like it had a mask on or some kind of white painted face, maybe. And we've also got Cryptidville, who's also in the chat tonight. Mark Maychak. What's up, Cryptidville? He's been at the LBL and had an experience with a dog man that seemed to have white paint smeared down his face before. So this is an ongoing kind of I don't say it's common, but for all the people that I've talked to about their experiences, this comes up sometimes. It looks like there's white paint or a mask on some of these cryptids. Interesting.
It is very
interesting. Okay, well, I'm glad you're telling me about that. Okay, so we'll add it to the list of weird stuff. Okay, of weird stuff we need to try to figure out here. But anyways, okay, well, let's get to some of these Georgia encounters. Okay, Harley's over in East Tennessee. David Pardue's over there in North Carolina. We even got Greg Ogles in here. What's up, Greg? He and I go out in the woods sometimes together as well. We're all over the South, undisclosed locations, but Georgia's my stomping ground. Okay, and I need to know these things, Kenny. Okay. Let's go to the first one. How about we talk about the Habersham County first? Because we have a Habersham resident in the chat. That's Scott. Hey, Scott. He was like, a werewolf in Habersham? Uh-oh. Okay. Let's talk about that. Do you have your notes on that one, or you want me to talk about it? You got it?
We are here and you are the host, my friend.
Do you want me to
I
talk about it?
definitely follow your lead.
Okay.
I did see somebody else that wanted to ask real quick about the reports in Maine. Why so many?
Yes.
My science team and Mr. Barber as well have been trying to work on a theory now. Yes, it's above the hypothesis aspect that this all started in Canada and then they pushed down into Maine and most likely cut through over the Great Lakes and down into Michigan and Wisconsin afterwards right there. And yes, Jessica, let's roll.
One of the most famous Dogman packs was the Palmyra Werewolves, and that's in Maine, right?
Yeah, the Martin family. Yes.
That's the Martin family.
Rangerly, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. David said the white face critter I'll be showing in Demarest in June. Yeah, he's going to be speaking at another conference with us, and he's going to talk about that. The Palmyra Werewolves. I didn't realize that was the Martin family. Okay, I forgot. Yeah. I don't know all my Dogman cases very well.
Yeah, it's up near Rangeley, a game preserve. And actually, a lot of people don't realize right around the time that happened, you had a group of teenagers that actually most likely probably ran into that same pack, a few miles away from where the Martins had their encounter. They were just out camping. So pretty interesting stuff. And keep in mind, when you and I talked about the Turner Werewolf and Dogman on Midnight Lycanthropy a few weeks ago, that's only 2005, 2006. Then the Martin case is 2007. Same thing with that other one. So, I mean, that's pretty closely twined in.
Oh yeah, that's wild. That's super wild.
Mhm.
Okay, but yeah, there is also there's something called the Dogman Triangle or something. I know we've got that down in Texas, right? But there's also like the Pennsylvania Dogman Triangle or Werewolf Triangle or something like that. I've
Yeah.
heard
And
about it.
you got
Okay.
Werewolf Square too that I dubbed off of my friend Aaron Deese's Dogman Triangle, which includes like the LBL, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania. It's all caught up right into that little clutter right there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I still want to look into that crown that dog man was wearing.
Yeah,
That
I'll
is
send you
weird.
my case on that for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I would love that. Okay. I would love that. Okay, well let's get into Habersham County and let me pull up a picture on the map so everybody can see where Habersham. Now it's Habersham, but we call it Habersham. Okay, where I'm from. I'm so southern. Okay, but this is where it is on the map. Let's see. We got Rome. Hold on one second. We're gonna go. I gotta scroll down one second here. We got Chickamauga. I can't see. Corpsewood, Rome. All right, let's just go to. Yeah, dang it, y'all. Hold on. We got Tryon, Rome. Let me just go ahead and show everybody where all these are. Okay, right off the bat. I may have forgotten to upload this one. And there's Chickamauga. Okay, these are all kind of in the same areas. I forgot to upload it, y'all. Okay, Habersham County is going to be on the opposite side of the state going north. Okay, so if you go, we're on the west side where this is, it's going to be on the east side. Okay, so I apologize for not having this one uploaded. Okay, let me take this down. Tiff County. I got them all but that one, y'all. I'm sorry. Start off with Habersham County is right up there, going up to the tippy top northeastern part of Georgia. Okay, that's what we're talking about. This is where my great grandmother and my great aunt lived, who had a possible alien abduction while they were driving in their car one night. Okay, actually, that happened in Rome, but they lived up there in Habersham. So in 2023, in Habersham County, a young couple was driving on a rainy night and saw a dark gray canine creature with pointed ears, glowing red eyes, long, lanky arms, shaggy hair, and a bushy tail running and crawling across the interstate. I think it got up on two legs and ran. Okay, now that interstate would be 985, I'm assuming. Okay, going, I don't know if it was north or south, but that's going through Habersham County. That takes you right up to Clayton, Georgia, where we usually have the Georgia Bigfoot Conference every year. And there's a lot of Bigfoots out there in those areas. So that's one of the first reports that I have for tonight. Now, that was in 2023. Okay. All of these were in 2023. And I don't understand why there's such a clump that year. Okay. It almost doesn't make any sense unless, I don't know. I mean, something shifted. I mean, I've not gotten that many. I've looked. I've looked too on the North American Dogman Project website and done some research. There's not a whole lot of reports in Georgia. 2023, there's a ton of them. Okay. Do you think that maybe, Kenny, I'm asking you this question. Could it be that like people are more open to it now and like are looking for it? I mean, is that a possibility?
Wow. I mean, isn't everything at this point
Yeah.
potentially going to be a possibility with how confusing things really are? I
Yes.
honestly wish I had a more clarified answer for you, meaning I am really baffled, like I said, as to what's occurring here. I do know we got some misidentifications and also prehistoric and modern day predators kicking around, but then you have some very bizarre stuff. And unfortunately, you have to kind of get through the murkiness in the water, meaning you got people that purposely try to mislead information. Meaning, I've heard of individuals that will take one report, change it into five just by changing dates and locations. Actually, recently I kind of ran into something similar along the lines of
Oh,
that. Got an email where I recognized it. it was into the North American Dogman Project, and I'm like, wait a second, I swear I've heard this before. So I'm filtering through the area, and sure enough, this individual had already submitted this encounter to us, but now the date's different and the location's different. To me,
Oh,
those are, yeah, big red flags. So you would like to
okay.
always, yeah, take things at face value, but you just need to be careful. Because, I mean, let's even not talk about cryptids in general for a second, just in life. I mean, whether you're going to take a loan out or, I don't know, buy a car, whatever, there's always that fine print, okay? There's always more potentially going on or reasonings for why people are doing something. Could the person that's trying to be selling you the car, do they really want you to have a nice car at the end of the day? You would like to think so, but are they doing that because they're going to be getting a nice chunk of change off of once you sign on to the car? Same thing with a real estate agent, right? Do they want you to have this beautiful house and beautiful life? Yeah,
Mhm.
sure, hopefully. Or do they want you to sign on because now they're getting a huge payoff on that? Meaning there's always reasonings. So, same thing when you approach now with people's reports and stuff, you have to really try and figure out what's the reasoning, because now with all the shows and all the platforms,
Mhm.
5 minute of fame is very easy for people to get. And when people are like, oh, well, what's in it for people to hoax? A crap ton. I mean, I know a ton of fraudulent cases that have been on some really big time shows. And
Yeah.
there's your reasoning right there.
Yes, I know. Well, you guys y'all do a lot of background work on these, and I know people who have personally gone and done these investigations for some of the reports that you guys have had. So I know they're legit. Okay. Now, whether they're, I mean, I know the reports are legit. I don't know if people giving them are. Okay, but I know the reports are. So, anyways, um, okay. This is an interesting comment here. 5DRG says more than likely a black magic cult came into the area or alphabet type groups. Man, well, we do talk about you know, black magic and stuff. And even our military uses that. Okay. They allegedly are using, black magic. We got, what is that? Arkeem was talking about it this week. Like Michael Aquino and all them was like almost like satanic cults in our military. You're like, there's like a satanic element to some of the military, maybe. And this is all for entertainment purposes only tonight. Okay. But, but nonetheless, there's no telling what things are being conjured. I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit, even with things like CERN, okay, and like these large hadron colliders. I've talked about that. I don't know if I talked with Harley about that, but I've talked about the Oak Ridge Labs in East Tennessee. We've talked about the cases with Amber Miller and Tony Ahrens, who were both on what is that, Jimtown Road, I think is what it was called in East Tennessee, and they both died. They were mauled to death by something out there, and we talked about that, and it was suspiciously close to those labs where they have um, a large ion collider and all this kind of stuff going on there. So like
Mhm.
portals, magic, there's all sorts of avenues that we could go down when it comes to this stuff. So that is a good point right there. And military bases as well are all around the place as well. So, but nonetheless, okay. So that happened in Habersham County. Okay, well, let's go to Dalton, Georgia next, because I do believe that, yeah, Jimtown Road in Newport, Tennessee. Thank you, Harley. Okay, so Greg Smith is in the audience tonight, and he's up there not too far from Dalton, and so there is. Yeah, Oak Ridge is shady. Okay, but let's see. Let me see if I've got Dalton on the map, and I'll show it to you guys because we have another report. It's not too far from Habersham. Okay, well, Habersham's on the other side, but it's up there north, okay, in Georgia. In Dalton, a man was driving home and saw a werewolf like creature standing in the middle of the road, 20 yards ahead of him. He hit his brakes, threw it in reverse, and he heard strange, loud howling. He drove home, ran in the house, locked the doors, looked out the window, and he was horrified to see the same werewolf standing in his yard. It stayed there until it got bored and then it left. What is up with that? Okay. So the thing followed him home. Kenny, how often is that for these dogmen or werewolves to follow people home?
Definitely, another valid question. It occurs quite often,
Yeah.
more often than you'd probably suspect. Yet sometimes it seems the distance might be not realistic for a known animal to try and follow you that far. But yeah, and a lot of the ones that seem potentially more paranormal based, you definitely have people that are reporting that, yes, they then have encounters at their house. Or, I mean, look at the Martin case, same thing. They went, disturbed their den, came back and caused ruckus at their house. You have, the Squatch Father, same thing. He decided to relieve himself in that area near what he believed was a dog den. And then later on, he had just redone some, I think it was drywall outside or might wet wall. I'm not sure the exact term Al used. This thing decided to come back and take a leak right on his house and dig up his front yard, pretty much more or less saying, hey, you decided to come over here and relieve yourself near my house. Well, I know where you are. So I don't think Al directly saw it, but it followed him home right there. So,
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I've always heard stories about people that have shot at a dogman. It's actually more Bigfoot in the cases that I've done research on and been told about. It's usually Bigfoot, any kind of cryptid, I guess. You shoot at them. A lot of times, it may not be that one that followed you home, but their
mhm.
pack will. Somebody, yeah, FAFO, right? And when it comes to cryptids, they hold grudges, and they're not going to let you go peacefully. If you hurt one of their own, okay, and so Marcy says, I used to work at a carpet mill in Dalton. Well, Dalton is the carpet capital of the world. Okay, that's where they make. If you have carpet in your house, it might have come from Dalton. Okay, and Dalton it's a rural town, right off the interstate in North Georgia, and lots of mountains, forests, and really it's just like an industrial type of an area where there's not a whole lot except for carpet mills. And I don't mean that to be like, I'm not, no shade or anything. I don't know. It's a beautiful town. It's beautiful up there, but it's just, it's known for their carpet mills up there. A perfect place for dogman encounters and werewolves. Now, when these were given to the NADP, were the creatures described as werewolves or dogmen, Kenny? Do you remember?
Again, excellent questions. It's really hard to tell because some of the depictions are similar, but then you have others that claim it didn't have a tail. And if we're going to go with the majority of the depictions of werewolves, they don't have tails. Yet with the dogmen, they're reported, or dog women or dog people, they're reported to have the tails. You definitely have those differences right there for sure. But then you do have some similarities, which makes you wonder when someone, is seeing, let's say, the Rougarou per se, are they actually seeing a person that was transforming? That's why they have clothes on? Or are you seeing something like the cynocephali or like the dogman or dog people that did wear clothing? I think a lot of times people jump to the assumption that just because it has clothes on, it had to have been human at a point in time.
No, Javier actually with Cryptid 559. He's been on the show several times. He was just on here recently, and he had an encounter with a dogman out in California that was wearing clothes. So he thinks it was a dogman. I mean, could it have been a Lycan? A werewolf of some time, maybe. He said it looked more like a dogman to him, and it was wearing ripped shorts. It might have been wearing jorts. You know what jorts are? Jean shorts. It was wearing some kind of ripped shorts, he said. And so I find that fascinating. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they had to have been human at some point, but who knows? I mean, they might have just gone and borrowed some pants off a clothesline. I mean, these days people don't have clotheslines as often as they used to. But, yeah. But who knows? Don says Jimtown Road, Newport, Tennessee, and nearby is an island in the Pigeon River about 400 feet long where a pack of 3 dogmen were seen It's within eyesight of Jimtown Road. Oh my goodness. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. Yeah, Jimtown Road. I would stay away from that area if I were y'all. Okay, I just would, and I would, and also, yes, you're talking about New York. Hey, Sovereign, what's up? Chicky Blue says you might need some protection rituals before going home after a night of cryptids. 100%, yes, because it's not just all physical. Okay, and I know we got the flesh and blood camp, and we got the supernatural woo camp, right? It's important that we do a spiritual protection before we go. I surround myself in the white light before I go anywhere and say prayers. And we are spiritually, we got the armor of God on us. We go out there. And so that's very important. And so, yeah, you are 100% right. Definitely do some kind of protection before you go out there. And when you come back home, you don't want hitchhikers, for sure. But that flesh and blood element, though, that's gonna tell you right there, like they could follow you to your house, they could stay there, right? I mean, kind of stalking you out.
Right? Creepy.
Yeah, super creepy. Okay, well, let's move on, okay, to the next one, because I have a lot of things that are connected to this next one. Okay, I want to go into Rome. Okay, Rome, Georgia. This is the one where the little kid was attacked. And I think it's important we talk about this one because this is terrifying. Okay, this is terrifying. And I showed you where Dalton is. Okay, it's right there. Now let's move over to Rome. And this is where Rome is. It's right there beside it. Oh, that's Tryon, actually. That's right beside there, too. That's Rome. Okay, we're going to go to Tryon in just a second. All right, this is a hotbed of werewolf and dogman reports right now. Before we get into this story, I do want to mention that I have talked about Rome before. I have family from Rome, from a place, and I was talking to is my mom's first cousin. He has property there that belonged to the family in a place called Booger Holler. And if you know anything about Bigfoot locations, any place there's a place called Booger Holler or something like that, it's usually got Bigfoots. It's got a history of some kind of creature there. And this is no different. So Rome is a city of high strangeness. And there's a story that came out on March 8th. That's my grandmother's birthday, by the way. March 8th of 2023 again. Okay, all these were in 2023. That one in Dalton that was March 8th of 2023 in Dalton. Let's go to the Rome one. That is May 1st of 2023. Okay, the one in... Let's see. Okay, Dalton was March 8th. Rome is May 1st. Habersham, I don't have a month, but I have a date. It's just 2023. So on May the 1st, actually, this is May the 1st, a family had just moved into a remote home. They bought some property up there in Rome, right here we're showing. They had a family gathering with friends, and the kids were playing out in the yard. The dad had set up trail cams around the property, and he decided he was going to go check his trail cams. And when he got to one of the first trail cams, it was knocked off the tree or torn off, and it had bite marks in it and scratches on it. It was busted and bitten. The dad went back and got his kids and stuff and was like, hey, let's go. Y'all come with me and check out these other trail cams. There's something weird going on here. And so when they went back to go check on the other trail cams on the way, they said they encountered a 7 to 9 foot tall black shaggy werewolf creature with glowing red eyes, and it started growling at them. They took off running, and one of the kids tripped and fell. As they turned around and attempted to grab the child, they said a werewolf. The werewolf grabbed him by his neck and held him up and let out a terrible scream right in his face. It opened its jaws like it was going to eat them or eat him, and the men shot it with their shotguns. Okay, the men shot it with their guns. Okay, Kenny, this is wild. So they shot it while the thing was holding the kid. That is really dangerous, especially if it's with the shotgun. But they said that it dropped the kid. It started to coughing blood. It coughed up blood, and it had a hole in its shoulder. and it sprinted off in the woods, and the men, the boys, they all ran back to the house, and they heard loud shrieking and howling from multiple creatures in the woods. And that night, when they got back to the house, they started getting surrounded. They were surrounded all night by like werewolves around their house. I mean, how terrifying is that? What do you know about this case?
Wow. Pretty gnarly stuff right there.
That's terrifying.
I
Yeah.
think I probably know, I would say, what you had just spoken about for the most part, and a lot of maybe some of the more mainstream touches on that. Yet, you being down there, I think I get a lot of my information from you and Drewski and
Yeah.
people like Harley down in that area for sure. Like, I hadn't heard about the story with the female werewolf that you had spoken about. I had briefly heard it, but I didn't realize it was down in Georgia. And also, when we were reading those encounters last time, when we covered your neck of the woods, I again hadn't really heard of any of those except for being led to look around the areas for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm boots on the ground down here. Okay, and I am not a member of the North American Dogman Project or anything, but I do work with people that are, like yourself. And Bob, bless his heart, Bob was part of that for a long time as well. And what I knew about Dogman, I learned from him. You know, back when we were out in the field and stuff, doing all of our field research out there. I have not heard about this story until you told me this. Okay, so I want you, originally Kenny and I talked about this on his channel, y'all. So please go to Midnight Lycanthropy over on YouTube, and definitely go and subscribe over there for Kenny, for Starfox, y'all. And please do that, because we had a great conversation about this about a month or two ago. And so what I know about this, I learned from you guys. Okay. And so I'm not getting these reports. However, we have a huge number of people that I know personally who have had Bigfoot sightings in this area. Okay. Bigfoot reports. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'd mentioned that my mom's cousin, who I saw him at we talked to my grandmother's funeral. He follows me on Facebook and stuff. He knows I'm a Bigfooter, and he's an avid hunter. He lives in Floyd County, where Rome is, and he lives over by, I can't remember the name of that mountain. Can't remember the name of it. Taylor's Ridge. And that's where Tony Green, who's been on my show, y'all remember Tony? Tony had this massive Bigfoot encounter on Taylor's Ridge over there, and that's where his property is. Okay, and that is in Floyd County, where all this happened. What we're talking about tonight. Okay, it's not far from. I don't know exactly where this happened in Rome, but it's got to be near where he lives. It's got to be near Booger Holler. Okay, massive Bigfoot sightings over there, and also one of my very good friends, Miss Bryce of Esoteric Atlanta. She talks about this openly, that she went to a private school in Rome, and I'm not going to name it, but you can look it up. I had several friends that went to school there, and she claims that she suffered a lot of abuse there at this school, and it had to do with potentially some kind of satanic undertones here. Okay, satanic undertones, and okay, I'm going to keep piling on. Okay, also, not very far from this location, not far at all, is a place called Corpsewood Manor. And when I say this is very close to Rome, it's right outside of Rome. Okay, here's Rome. And let's look up Tryon. Okay, this is where Corpsewood Manor is. Okay, and that is a place where near the Chickamauga battlefield, not too far from there, where Greg Smith, who's in the chat tonight, Country Boy Cryptids, I mean, not Country Boy, Backwoods Cryptids. Sorry, Greg. He does his research up there. There's werewolf reports up there around Corpsewood. We have Dogman reports, werewolf sightings, all sorts of cryptids coming out of that area. Well, what's going on with Corpsewood Manor? This is where two gentlemen, Dr. Charles Scudder and Joseph Odom, moved down from Chicago. They built their castle in the woods. They were Satanists. Okay.
Dang.
They were very open about their satanic practices. As a matter of fact, Charles Scudder was rumored to have been friends with Anton LaVey. This is their castle in the woods they built with bricks they made by hand. And they were brutally unalived in this home one night by a group of teenagers, of young men and a woman. They were known to have pretty wild parties out there. That is his dog Beelzebub. That's Dr. Charles Scudder right there. His dog's name was Beelzebub. Okay, they had two of those gigantic. I think they were like Presa Canarios or something, maybe. But anyways, they were brutally unalive there on that property, and today they call that property Devil Worshippers Mountain. Okay, I've been there before. There was blood all over the place when we went. I was there about 11 or 12 years ago. I don't care to ever go back, honestly. But we went up there with my Bigfoot team, and there had been it looked like somebody had been sacrificed up there. Honestly, we were hoping it was a chicken. Turns out it was human. It was human blood that we saw all over the property right here. Now it's all ruins. Now this is gone. There's only ruins left of this brick house right here. But they used to have it. There's a gargoyle. If you look at the top at the little rotunda, there's a pink gargoyle up there. Okay, and they had stained glass that was like pentagrams and all sorts of satanic imagery up there. The place has a really bad vibe when you go up there. But let's just say I'm only bringing this up because I want to talk about how the ritualistic aspect of this could have opened some sort of a portal or something potentially, and maybe somebody didn't close it. I don't know, Kenny. I'm just trying to make sense of like why there's so many werewolf sightings around this area and so many dogmen running around that part of Georgia right now. What are your thoughts?
Deep questions again, and I just wanted to say thanks to everybody in the chat. Harley, I saw that. Great stuff. Thank you. When it comes to portals and the supernatural aspect, I feel like you know so much more about that than I do, because I always try to just gather information and be subjective and objective as to how I'm presenting something, meaning, do I necessarily always subscribe to the information I'm gathering? No, but that's the reason you have to gather it, to figure out where it belongs or if it belongs anywhere. Meaning, in theory and science, yeah, a portal could exist, and there's really no reason, if you look into quantum physics, why a portal can't exist. Have I ever had any sort of experiences like that? I haven't had any sort of paranormal experiences yet. Have I fielded reports about this? Another level that has been added to the iceberg, per se, meaning now you have people claiming they're seeing portals or strange orbs. It's really interesting. Again, I try to always be grounded when I make my opinions on things. Like a prime example about how everybody jumped to the fence of, oh my goodness, we have direwolves back. Well, no, if you actually paid attention to the presentation, it's 16% lineage to direwolves. Direwolves weren't believed to be white. There's all kinds of other things that if you proceeded to dive into that, you would have realized, no, direwolves are not back from extinction. But that's what I mean about trying to just get an understanding about something before I make a public opinion about it. Yet I do know people much smarter than myself speak about how there really is no reason that a portal type highway couldn't exist in the right circumstances. Well, then I need to look at that as something being reasonable.
Yeah. Well, I can say that my team, Like, can I raise my hand here? We have documented what we consider to be a portal out in the field, and we sent people inside, and those people have both passed away since they went in there, and so we're doing it. We've got some good evidence that these things do exist, and they're there, and so it's and plus we've got all of this. Whether I don't know if there's an uptick in like people being more open about practicing black magic and all that kind of stuff now. I don't know. I mean, it just comes up way too much in my cryptid research, okay, than I would even ever have imagined. But yes, Red Tip Savage says, "Hey Jessica, are the Etowah Indian Mounds in Floyd County?" No, they're in Cartersville, which I can't remember what I don't know what county that is, but they're in Cartersville, which is just north of Paulding, and so they are not too far from there though. Okay, super close to Rome. It's all right there in the same area. But yeah, what was I going to say? I was going to address some more of these comments right here. Y'all are hilarious. We have a huge crowd in here tonight, so I'm having a hard time getting to all the comments tonight. Okay. I've been in the mounds up there. I wonder if the same area where the raptor dinosaur was reported. That's what I was going to address. No. It turns out the raptors down in the troop herd corridor area where I do research down there as well. We're about to get to that area in just a minute after we finish talking about up here in Northwest Georgia. Okay. But yeah, for whatever reason, there's a lot of dogmen, a lot of werewolves being reported up here in Northwest Georgia. This is my home. It's my stomping grounds, y'all. Stomping grounds. Okay. Okay. Another place that I wanted to talk about as well, because we got like this whole Corpsewood Manor incident. Okay. That's what I'm about to say. And potentially there being like portals opening there. I mean, who knows? We don't know what all's going on there. I do know when I went, there was blood. It turned out that was human blood. And we found out it was human, and people do rituals there all the time. They call it Devil Worshippers Mountain for a reason, and we had put a video up on YouTube with my original research team, and a woman saw the video and contacted the head of my team, and she said, "Hey, we did like a 3 or 4 part series of that investigation on YouTube." The woman contacted the head of my team and said, "Hey, that was actually the week that my son was injured up there." She said that they had gone up there he had gone with some friends. They may have had a Ouija board or something. I don't know. People go up there and try to, provoke spirits and God knows what. She said that he went to go chop some wood to build a fire, and the axe slipped and it chopped into his thigh. And that he almost lost his life that night.
Ouch.
And that happened about 2 or 3 days before we went in there to go investigate. When I say there was blood everywhere, there was blood everywhere. And it looked like a homicide scene, actually. But we could tell that a herd of elephants had literally ran out of there, probably in the middle of the night. And it turns out, she said that his friends actually picked him up and carried him and got him to the hospital just in time before he lost all his blood.
Yes.
Now, places like this, the land requires blood. Okay, I've done some remote viewing of these areas. The land requires blood. And right down the road from this place is called the Chickamauga Battlefield. Greg, I'm so glad Greg's in the audience tonight. The Chickamauga Battlefield, 34,000 men died over the course of about 3 days at a Civil War battle up there. And this place is known for Old Green Eyes. Okay, and we've talked about this with Greg here, who's in the chat tonight. And this is right up the road from Tryon, where Corpsewood Manor is. And Old Green Eyes, Kenny, if you're not familiar with Old Green Eyes, nobody really knows what Old Green Eyes is, other than an entity. Some say it's a Gugway. Others say it could be Dogman. Others say Skinwalker. But it's a ghoul of some sort that was seen eating the dead corpses of the Civil War soldiers out there on the battlefield. And it's still seen to this day out there. And so it could be a S-Walker. Okay, it could be a Dogman. So we've got that to contend with up there as well. Okay, so we've got that. And this is exactly where Chickamauga is on the map. It's right there, just north of Rome, and just north of Dalton as well. Okay, so yeah. Oh, and this right here, if you want to see where the North Paulding werewolf is, that's Paulding. Look right there on this Cryptids of Georgia map. It's right up there too. there's a werewolf up there at the very top, and that's where that is. So the Etowah Indian mounds are right there. I don't know. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Kenny?
Great stuff right there for sure.
Yeah.
Again, it is wild. It just really brings more questions to what's occurring right there. And again, leading into the direction of uncharted territory to an extent. I mean, we have the stuff that we have now that is quality, yet when you talk about things like you just spoke about, as well as the continuous evolution of what's occurring, pretty much, it just is really hard to label it into one category, meaning could it realistically be paranormal? But also when it is here, it's here, but then it's only here for a short amount of period of time, or kind of has like the halo effect, I like to say, to nerd out. You know how in Halo, like the Covenant and stuff, you only need so much plasma to be able to appear, right? Well, what if they can only appear for a short enough period of time, which would explain why in Lee's field that they just vanish and stuff, you know?
Yes. Okay. I have something that I'm going to talk about tonight that I've never talked about before as well. Okay, let me address this first. Urso says Amityville House is supposed to be the same way, demands blood since Dawn and her brother unalived the family, but the history goes further back and it's bloodier. Yeah, we don't know what the full history is of all these lands. When a place requires blood, I can guarantee there's going to be land disputes, there's going to be wars, there's going to be people doing rituals on this land for, I don't know. The guys from Courtswood Manor, it was rumored that they had Anton LaVey come there and show them exactly where to place their house for ritualistic purposes and stuff. So, ley lines, maybe, I actually have a ley line map. Let's pull this up and see if there's any ley lines actually up there in that area. I'm going to have to kind of get my screen. I'm going to have to blow my screen up real quick. Let me look. No, I mean, there may be small ley lines, but there is one that goes right through the middle of Georgia up there in North Georgia. So close enough. Okay. Definitely close enough. Okay. Well, all right. So there's one more thing that I did want to talk about tonight. And I see my mom in the chat. I'm not going to tell you who my mom is. She's in here though. And her best friend, my mom's very best friend, Mr. Ed. He was a good, sweet guy. He was like a godfather to me, basically. Okay, and Ed was like family to us, and he lived at I'm just going to say an undisclosed location, but it's there in that county, basically up there in Rome, near Rome, and he died a very suspicious death. We think he died. But his house burned down one night. Okay, gosh, this is terrible. I probably shouldn't talk about this, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Justice for Ed, okay. But Ed had a house fire one night, and he passed away, and his house was like right there in the middle of like this huge farm. Okay, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the man that owned it, but he was a multimillionaire guy, and Ed's house was kind of right there in the middle of that property, but he owned it, and he just kind of mysteriously died one night. His house caught fire. We went up there the next day when he died, and I know this doesn't have a lot to do with werewolves, but it might, y'all. Okay, but we went up there. My mom and I went up there. It was devastating, right? And we got up there, and the fire department was having us like sift through the rubble to try to find him. It was just so weird. It was so unprofessional. It didn't make any sense. And considering what we were going through, it didn't make any sense. Okay, well, let's just say that we knew like the people that own this property. Okay, I had been told, I think Ed had told us that once a year he kind of was like asked to like leave, okay, and like not be there for a weekend or so, and it was because this man was like, he was in with the in crowd, if you know what I mean, and he would fly in celebrities and stuff to this property. And oh God, I probably shouldn't even say this. The rumor was, this is a rumor, okay, he would fly in like celebrities to this property. and I don't know if they were doing rituals or what. They were doing stuff that is definitely secret out there. And but anyways, I'm only bringing this up because it's in the same area where all these werewolf sightings are. Okay, now knowing what we know that's been in the news with all these like celebrities doing like spirit cooking and blood rituals and things like that. I mean, secret society things. And then I've got my friend who went to school out there and was part of, unfortunately, satanic ritual stuff when she was a kid, forced into it, of course. But all this is just, it all kind of is starting to come together now. Okay. It's kind of coming together. It kind of makes sense. Like, I don't know if it's connected or not. I'm just putting it out there. It's all food for thought and it's for entertainment purposes only. Okay. So anyways, let's move on because I don't want to get in trouble for this. Don't come at me. All right. But does that make sense? Do you think that there could be like even like secret society stuff going on with some of these werewolf reports? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I see Dr. Carroll's up here in the chat, and I think he always would be a great epic person to shed light on that for sure. Yet, I mean, I've heard of strange, supposedly werewolf-like cults, and I actually just spoke to my friend Amber, who was involved in a real-life cult with the Jehovah Witnesses, actually, and I am going to be airing that pretty soon just to get some information out there. But I mean, right there is facts that cults are real things. And I mean, you can look at historical aspects of cult activity as well. So, I mean, I really don't see any reasoning why it couldn't venture over to something darker. I mean, the terminology of cult is loosely used as well. I mean, the Freemasons or the Illuminatis, that could be referred to as a cult as well, meaning it all depends on the thin line of how things are presented, if that makes sense. It's like cocky confident. It's a thin line.
Yeah.
It's one and the same. Yet if you venture too far to each side, that's when you become either confident or you become like cocky per se. So you never really know if you are potentially involved per se in something that could be listed as a cult until you find yourself being involved in it, because if you know no different, then you don't understand the way things are being presented. Now, to translate that into what you asked, if these type of cults and activities are occurring, again, I don't see any reasoning why it wouldn't venture over to, say, a group of women that or men that would like to dive into being witches and warlocks and having a group of same thing individuals like that. Could they be participating on free will? Sure, but could they also be participating because they don't fully understand what they're participating in? Yes, as well. So again, really great question. And to give you a full answer, I do believe people are using the dark arts. I mean, look at I listen to all types of different music. Long story short, look at Marilyn Manson. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to music and creativity, sure, I'll give him some kudos on that. But when it comes to his other behaviorisms and how he's admitted to the public that he's an ordained minister of Satan and such, well, again, here is a celebrity musician that, as you had previously mentioned earlier on, that is publicly admitting that they partake in these type of activities. So for every person that publicly admits it, you need to then realize there's going to be like another 100 that don't publicly admit that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a lot of people working dark stuff in the shadows, and I have become fully aware of that, especially after I went public and started meeting people who pretend to be good folks, and I see them doing some dirty stuff behind the scenes and stuff. Okay, but I don't know, maybe I'm just not as naive as I used to be when it comes to things, and I have been exposed to a lot of kind of dark things and and I mean like dark things as far as when we're going out and doing these investigations as a cryptid researcher. When people are in the flesh and bone camp, I totally understand that. I get it. Okay, but there's so much more to this. And when you're dealing with things, it's not just Bigfoot. You're dealing with things like dogmen and werewolves. It can get really dark. It can get really dark out there. And we start dealing with backwoods cults and secret societies and conjuring cryptids and in the battlefields and seeing all these cryptids and werewolf-like creatures like old green eyes, for instance, on these battlefields where bloodshed has happened and it's occurred over and over again. It almost feels, hear me out here, it almost feels like some of these wars and battles have kind of even been choreographed. God, I hate saying this. I hope nobody comes at me for saying this is for entertainment purposes only. What if some of these things have been choreographed to keep continuing at like certain places? Like I mentioned, like there's a potential that Anton LaVey had even shown those men where to put their house. Okay, like maybe for the, and that's just a rumor. I don't know if that really happened or not. That's what people say. But let's just say that he did. And it's for like maximum ritualistic power right there. You know what I mean? Like it's a place of power. It's like that house over at Loch Ness where those rock stars, were doing rituals and opening portals where the Loch Ness monster is, that kind of stuff. With what was that guy's name? Aleister Crowley, I think. Okay, that kind of stuff. Who's to say that like some of these things, and it's just the whole picture with like history not being what we've been taught. And there's been a lot of deception going on, and I don't know, maybe I should keep my mouth shut. Okay. But I'm not tonight. I don't know. But it's just food for thought. Like Barry always says, it's food for thought. And what if things are put places purposely, like wars and stuff like that, to cause as much, I don't say damage, because that land needs the blood or whatever. Gosh, that's so weird, right? Especially conjuring werewolves and stuff too. What do you think the ultimate purpose of conjuring werewolves would be, Kenny?
Such a great question right there. Hey, Jessica, I have to rejoin you from my tablet right here real quick. Okay. My Chromebook is screaming, but I'm joining right back in with my tablet.
Okay.
Right now, okay?
You go on. You go on. You come back when you're ready.
No, I'm going to be here. I just wanted to let you know that I'm not going anywhere. So, but
okay, I gotcha. Okay, I want to thank Dave Scott so much from Spaced Out Radio for being here today. Thank you, Dave, for that super sticker. That's so sweet. He says, I love me some Cryptid Hunters time. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet of you. You guys go over to Spaced Out Radio on YouTube and listen to him on terrestrial radio all over the North America. Okay, all over the North America. Thank you, Dave. That means the world to me. I appreciate you. And y'all know I did have a show over on Spaced Out Radio for it was like 2.5 years over there. And you can see it in my playlist in the archives. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to pull Kenny back up. Joe says Draco reptilians are behind it all, it seems. They might be, Joe. They might be. I don't know. Okay. Let me see if Kenny's ready. Hold on one second.
What's
there
up?
We go. There he is. He's back. And he's back.
I can still hear everything. I just had to switch over from the good old Chromebook to the tablet.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm just glad you're here. Yes. Okay. Double the Kennys there. I had two of you on the screen.
I know. I apologize for that noise, but welcome to old technology that tells you have more battery than you actually do, because in theory, my Chromebook was supposed to have more battery, but then the good old 1%, I was like, wait a second, what happened to the 20%? And well, it's all good.
It sounds like a car. Sometimes like you can drive it on empty for a few more miles, and sometimes you can't. Okay, it's just all a matter of knowing your technology there.
And brush me back up now on the question you would like me to answer real quick.
Oh gosh, I don't even remember what my question was at this point. I was talking about, I was saying stuff I probably shouldn't say, but it's about like almost like some things are choreographed. It feels like to maintain like the land requiring the blood and things like that. And maybe for ritualistic purposes, as far as like wars go, land disputes, satanic rituals, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was kind of talking about that with the werewolf issue, I guess. And I don't remember exactly what my question was.
No,
But
I got you now. You got the file cabinet cranking back
yeah,
upstairs. It's like we
right.
were speaking about the other night potentially too, meaning this could be even like a cyborg to an extent, because when you look at like Nat Geo and stuff, they've come up with some amazing technology with how they've made artificial snakes that sit there and act just like any other snake, yet it's a robot, and then they put the skin on it and it goes out and acts like the other snakes.
Hmm.
Meaning, I don't know, is it really that hard or far fetched to think potentially that it could be maybe some sort of cyborg or AI aspect, and then it's just got a suit on the outside? I mean, would that not explain a lot of times when people claim they shoot it, no reaction? Because, I mean, we've all seen the Terminator, keep in mind that's fictional, yet he has no reaction when pieces of his skin are getting blown off, or when he removes the
Oh,
remaining part of his eye and doesn't even react and then just puts the sunglasses on. So same kind of theory, in that aspect of, could
right.
it be more than, like I said, what we're thinking, even paranormal or flesh and blood? It's just, again, another question to bring up that needs to have credence, because yeah, it could be what you were saying, or it could be that, or it could be just a whole entire separate thing from what we're even in the right direction of. But there's just so many questions.
There are, and I just thought of something I'm going to ask you, but first I want to address this. Leah, thank you. She says, battles on ley lines to darken the energy. Las Vegas is the biggest vortex on the planet. Hollywood has one too, and Maui is the heart vortex chakra for the earth. Oh my gosh, that's wild. Yes, that's a great point too. And actually where the Georgia Guidestones used to be, over in Elberton County, or Elberton, Georgia, I think it's Elbert County. I don't remember, but it's Elberton, Georgia. The Cherokee used to say, I believe that it was the Cherokee who would say that was actually the belly button of the world right there, too, where those guidestones were, which were destroyed a couple years ago. Okay, I just thought of something, because you had mentioned earlier in the night when we first started talking, you said something about dogmen. Some of the dogmen or the werewolves, when they get shot, they don't even respond to it. They don't even
Mm-hmm.
react to it. What's up with that? Okay, could it be because there's like the supernatural element? Could some of these be cyborgs or something?
That's what I'm saying, because why is there no reaction? I mean, is it
Right.
paranormal or is it a machine? Because, yeah, we all have cars and things we love, or my baby, but it's still a machine, right? So when the engine breaks, yeah, it's putting out a vibe that if you add a human aspect to it, sure, your engine could be in pain. But in actuality, when it blows a gasket, does that engine feel any pain? I don't believe it does, correct? Right?
Right.
I mean, it's just another part that you're inserting. So if you've created something that was a machine, it's not going to have those type of human aspects or those feelings like we were just talking about. Same thing with, like, again, it's fictional, but Arnold in the Terminator, there is
Mm-hmm.
no pain there because it's a machine. Pain would be inflicted to something that would have more of a human aspect, meaning if you want to dive into the realms of AI and trying to make it more human based and implementing pain and things, well, that's a different story. But if you're trying to make a tractor, right, you're not going into making a tractor adding to the equation, hey, I want my tractor to feel pain. No, your tractor's supposed to be out there harvesting your cornfield. Why would you want your tractor to be like, ouch, every time you hit a bump or something? That wouldn't really make logical sense. That would be more, per se, if we're going to look at like that movie with Megan Fox recently that came out, where she is a cyborg that is completely supposed to be human based too, but then can update. Sure. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about an actual machine here, or something that would be being used, per se, as a super soldier. The last thing you would want is a pain response.
Well, there are super soldier programs out there. I have super soldiers on my show all the time. I bring them on pretty often. People who've been parts of different like mind control projects and the Montauk programs and Project Phoenix. I just had Arkeem Ra on the other day, and we talk about this quite a bit. But something that I was just thinking about as you're talking about this is, there was that video that came out. It was Israeli news, and Primal Cry sent it to me actually, who comes in the chat sometimes, and she sent me that when I was talking about the zombie bears from that remote viewing data from the deaths of Amber Miller and Tony Aarons on Jimtown Road in East Tennessee, and she said, well, this she sent me a message, and it was an email, and she said, hey, this might explain the zombie bears, and it was that article. It was actually a YouTube video from Israeli news, and it was a man that blows a whistle on a lot of stuff, and he was talking about how the government, I think it was a 3-letter agency, had gone in and asked Congress to change some funding for a super soldier program that had gone wrong, kind of like it already run its course, and they had injected somehow had injected bear, wolf, and lion DNA, I believe, into soldiers, and had dropped them off across the world in pairs, male and female. And one of those sets had been dropped off in East Tennessee, probably not too far from where they had died. Okay. I'm not saying that that's how they died, but I'm just saying it might make sense. But they were even talking about how you could tell where those couples were living because they were in the caves. They were like living in caves, and because there was a pentagram painted on the outside of the cave door, and that's how you could tell where they were. I mean, this is wild stuff. This is our military doing this. Okay, this is not. This is on record. Okay, they have done this in our. I was just going to say agencies. Taxpayer dollars are doing this. Okay, and he was kind of blowing the whistle on it. He said that they were trying to eliminate the assets, and the program had gotten out of control, and they needed to eliminate the assets. And they needed the money for it, and they're going to shut the program down. Now, is that crazy or what? That's wild, right? So there are super soldier programs. We don't know what all they're doing with who. And another question I have is, did those soldiers know what they were getting into? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean,
they were expected to like breed together and stuff. Okay. And it's just, I can't imagine anybody signing up for that. Kind of becoming a beast. And I don't know.
From the East. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I am definitely totally with you on that for sure.
Yeah. It's wild because you just brought in the AI element as well. And there is we call it the transhumanist movement. Okay. And all this stuff with the brain chips and everything. I mean, and what we're shown and what is kind of presented to the public is light years behind the times. Okay.
Yeah,
like they've already implemented all this stuff a long time ago. We're just seeing it now.
Yeah. Same thing with phones, or when people see like the cool History Channel where it's like, oh, the brand new military technology. It's like, whoa, wait a second. If they're showing this to you on History Channel, this isn't new. This is like super old school that they've just decided to show you now. They are light years ahead of that. I don't know if it was Dr. Carroll or somebody else, another brilliant mind, but either way, the rule of thumb is that they're always going to be around like 50 years ahead technologically based compared to like regular civilization.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's really almost pathetic, the amount of wool that's been pulled over our eyes and just stuff that's been hidden from us for so long. Thank you, Skip. Skip says, good show as always, Jess. Thank you for being here, and thank you for that super sticker. I appreciate you. And we have some great comments too in here. Before we move on, we've got more werewolf reports, y'all. We're going to cover tonight, so y'all hold tight, okay? Because we've got more. And SDRG says, didn't Marco Polo say he found a whole island of dogmen? I don't know. Are you familiar with that, Kenny?
I do know Marco Polo had made reports of that. I don't, as far as I know, the whole area that someone would be referring to with like the cynocephaly, that was in Greece in the Roman area. And I do know there was also another group of people that were believed to be shifters that were kicked out of civilization, and they eventually went to go live up with the cynocephaly. Yet I don't know if it was an island, it was just up in the mountains per se, but yes, I do know Marco Polo had made references as well.
Wow, that's really cool. Thank you for that comment. That's really neat. Yes, so let's see. Ricky says 100%. Jason Rice at Secret Space Program whistleblower said ETs he fought were manufactured werewolves with weapons 7 feet tall. That's kind of the go-to height when people report dogman sightings, right, Kenny? It's like 7 to 9 feet.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting you brought that up, because that's something we're trying to figure out as well. When, rest in peace, Linda Godfrey, when she was taking reports, it was 5 to 6 feet tall. And now you have a spike where it's like 7 to 9, 9 to 12. Why is that? Is it just potentially misidentification, or is it a change? And the reason I say that is, well, Mr. Barber and myself covered this a little bit tonight on Midnight Lycanthropy about how you have giant crocodiles in the Congo. Okay. Yet when these scientists and experts go over there to investigate per se about how some of these giant crocodiles will dig burrows that are like 600 yards to 1,000 yards. Well, when they go and look at these massive burrows, they are massive, but they're not even close to that big at all, because that wouldn't make a logical sense for a crocodile to expel that much energy to go that far underneath the grounds. All right. Well, you have all these individuals that are claiming they're seeing 30, 40, 50-foot crocodiles, yet just from the instance I gave you right there, yes, they're seeing these burrows and dens, but their judgment is really skewed in regard of accuracy, meaning they're not growing up in a culture per se where metrics and measuring tapes and things are presented in centimeters and millimeters. I mean, when they're building something, they are just probably going off of eyesight or other things that they've used in the past, meaning, okay, well, if we built a frame with this high of a log, well, okay. So you got to sometimes understand that when people are reporting things, yeah, they saw that giant crocodile. Yeah, it wasn't 40 feet. It was like 20 feet, 18 feet, 25. That's still a huge crocodile, but that's not 40 feet though, you know? And same thing with a lot of those old school cases with the great whites where they were reported to be 27, 28, 29. No, they were 18, 19, 20, 22 feet. Again, huge sharks, but sometimes with a misidentification aspect, or not necessarily being the best at having the direct height or correlation, meaning if you could pull your phone out and the AI can just take a sample real quick, well, that's an AI that can give you an accurate assumption. But if I look out my window and I think it's 20 yards away, is it really 20 yards away though? I don't have a measuring tape to sit there and go out at that point in time and measure 20 yards, meaning when I looked outside, I think 20 yards. But then when I go outside, and if I actually measure 20 yards from where I think I saw it, is it actually 20 yards? Do you see what I'm saying? And that is what
Perception
makes
could be
me,
off.
wonder sometimes, is there an actual change, or is just the perception maybe off in some of the analytics when people are using judgment calls?
And also we have to keep in mind that it is terrifying to encounter something like a werewolf or a dogman. And so of course it's
Or a
going to be
giant
like the
crocodile,
biggest
yes,
or a giant
exactly.
crocodile. Yeah, it's going to be like the biggest thing you've ever seen in your life,
Yes.
at that moment. You don't even know if you're going to survive it, right? So it's like, oh, it's the biggest monster you've ever come against, I'm sure.
Like one of my exes, she's like, "Oh my god, this rat! It's running across the room." And I was
It's a
like, "Dude,
tiny
it was
little
like a
mouse.
mouse." I mean, it was,
Right.
it was a decent sized mouse, but I was like, that is not a rat.
I
She's
know.
like,
Well,
yes, it is. I'm like,
it's all
no.
about perception. Oh, it's the
Yeah.
monster, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've actually seen videos of gigantic Bigfoots before that are, you
Mhm.
know, hovering over campers that are, you know, 10 feet high in the air and stuff. I mean, huge, gigantic, hulking in Habersham County, actually. Habersham. That's the first werewolf report that we talked about tonight was in Habersham County. One of the biggest Bigfoots ever videoed in Georgia was out of Habersham County. Okay. And it was
Wow.
in somebody's yard, walking past their camper. Okay, so it was gigantic.
Yeah, you and I had touched on that before too. That guy made the phone call about that
Yeah. Oh
crazy
yeah.
Sasquatch. Remember, he was flipping
Yes.
out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes. Well, let's go back a little bit to Ricky had said talking about the Jason Rice, the SSP whistleblower, claimed that the dogmen are biological manufactured but have metal joints. And you had just talked about there possibly being an AI element to these dogmen. Some of them. And I want to bring this comment up as well. SDRG says, I think it is black magic mixed with technology on the quantum level. Well, I just think it's a mix of all that. It could be. Why wouldn't it be? You know, the black magic and the technology and everything. Oh God, it's just more to have to wrap my head around, y'all. Kenny, I don't know.
Yes,
My
see,
head
now you
hurts.
feel my pain, like I said about
Yes.
how I'm just back at the starting point, but at least I have much more of a quality team to try and understand this. But yeah, for every time we uncover something, there's just more questions than there are answers. But isn't that really how
Yes.
life goes a lot of times?
It does. I don't know. I'm behind on the comments and I jumped ahead, and all I see is werewolves often get naked to shapeshift. Thank you, Dennis. I don't know what context that is, but that's cool. That's funny. Werewolves. So you gotta get naked to shapeshift, and that's actually, I guess, that comes to the whole question about like the clothing aspect of like dogmen, especially like dogmen or werewolves wearing clothes. A lot of times, if they don't have on clothes, it's probably because they did take off their clothes before they shapeshifted. I guess that's funny. Okay, but
I mean, it would make logical sense. You don't want to ruin the get up, right?
exactly. Well, you don't want to look suspicious, you know,
Yeah.
and especially if you have on clothes that, like, if I were to shapeshift right now, and I'm not going to, but I'm just saying, you know, I got on this camouflage shirt, and I wear this camouflage shirt all the time, and people would see me in my camouflage shirt and my jeans that I wear every day. But if somebody saw a werewolf running around with my t-shirt on, with my long sleeve camo shirt and my necklace that I wear every day, and my pants, that's going to give me away. Do you know what I mean? I'd
You know,
rather people not know.
you know
Okay, if
how
I was a
pissed I'd
werewolf.
be if I had my Jeremy Swayman jersey on and I just
Yeah,
transformed and destroyed my Bruins attire. I would be
yeah.
so upset. Yeah.
Oh, right, right. I would get naked too if I was going to do that. Okay, I'm not saying I do, but I'm just saying. No, what is that? No face, no case. I mean, because that sounds terrible, but you know, when people shapeshift, a lot of times they're gonna. Well, I don't think a werewolf has been seen wearing a ski mask, not yet. Okay, but nonetheless, they go out and do. I mean, werewolves. You hear about them tearing animals and livestock apart and things like that. You know, we they cause chaos, right? They're
That
agents
they,
of chaos.
yes, that is
Yeah,
very true. They are.
yeah. I've actually going back to that prophecy club, y'all. I talk about it all the time with that Bill Schnoebelen fella, talking about how werewolves are used to guard secret society meetings. Okay, out and they do like rituals out at like landfills and places that are kind of gross and icky. Okay, and he said there were cases where kids would ride up on their bikes and those werewolves would go after them and unalive them and stuff. I mean, it's really gross and scary. But nonetheless, he says that happens. Okay, so agents of chaos, though. Um, oh, and speaking of which, we do have the Georgia werewolf. The one that I only knew, the only one that I knew of was Emily Isabella Burt down in Talbot County, and that's actually down in Middle Georgia, and that is at the Troop Herd Corridor, kind of down that way, where the Georgia raptor was spotted. Okay, the actual dinosaurs, like a velociraptor, a few years ago was seen on some private property down there. Of a grandfather and a son had gone hunting, and they were up at like 3:30 in the morning, walking out to their hunt spot, their hunt blind, I guess, and the bushes started shaking, and a velociraptor stuck its head out from some bushes and jumped out, and it sniffed the air. And they said they stopped and stood in the shadows of, the shadows, and didn't move. And it eventually went back into the bush, and then they ran off. They ran back to their truck and never went back. That's down there, not too far from where Emily Isabella Burt, Georgia's original werewolf, is buried.
Super creepy right there. And
Right?
well, I do know that Dr. Carroll, he did manage to sneak past my werewolf guards the other night and find his way into the fox den. And he said it was quite easy to bring in his silver and holy water after he gave my guards just some good old steak. So I guess I need to improve the behavior of the werewolves, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. We're going to have to protect ourselves, especially after this. After this show, we're going to have to sage. Okay, we're going to have to get some Palo Santo and some sage out after this one.
I'll be drinking some nice VHUs and eating some seaweed chips and doing some editing while I'm watching True Blood.
Kenny is my only vegan vampire friend. Okay.
I mean, I still eat meat for sure, but yeah.
The vegan vampire right here. Just kidding. You're not vegan, but I
No,
joke
but I
around
do
with
like my veggies. It's so funny. Who was it? Oh, it was Ryan Tremblay and Robert Preble from my science team the other night. They're like, "You nerd! You're not a vampire. You're like a mermaid eating sushi and seaweed chips." Like, it was so funny.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
I mean, I try to eat as healthy as possible. I mean,
Yeah. Just don't try to, don't come after me. Okay. I'm your friend. Remember that. I'm your friend.
yeah, of
Okay.
course. I got the self-control. No worries. I would never.
I love that. Okay. Ricky says a U.S. Army werewolf cyborg would be a good way for area denial on the battlefield.
Yeah.
A werewolf cyborg, that actually, I've never even thought of a werewolf cyborg before. I don't know why. Why have I not thought of a werewolf cyborg before tonight?
I mentioned this to you as well, and also Mr. Barber and I covered this too, where think if criminals were dressing up as a werewolf per se, and a criminal broke into your house in a werewolf costume, what would your reaction be? Terrified? And then what would the neighbor's reaction be when someone ran out? I saw, what the heck? It looked like a werewolf or a Bigfoot suit. And there's actually been cases where serial unalivers have played into that aspect. I mean, Hulu has a series called Sasquatch where that tweaker claims that they took the girl, but in actuality, people believe that tweaker was the one that unalived her. And I mean, you have another individual that wore like a wolf mask and basically like a wolf skin, and he had like metal claws that he would try to attack people with and stuff. So yeah, pretty creepy.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that is very creepy. It is. Mountain Man Explore the Truth has been told that he looks like a werewolf because he is a hairy guy.
Savage.
Hey, ask for the Wolf Man. Okay. I don't know about y'all, but down in Georgia, we had a commercial when I was a kid that was Wolfman Furniture Outlet or something like that. I don't know, him and his daughter Donna. Y'all remember that? Hey, ask for the Wolfman. And yeah, that was like the classic commercial when I was a kid. Hey, ask for the Wolfman.
Oh, that's so
anyways,
funny.
It was super country.
I'm more of a vampire guy than a wolf, than a werewolf guy.
I'm more of a wolf lady. I like the werewolves. Okay, Team Jacob, right from Twilight. I think that's me. Okay,
that's so funny.
No shade to the vampires out there. Okay, I
you're loving the Al Seed from True Blood, then, right?
Right. I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman says, "No wonder the Dogman topic is demonic." Too, and that's another thing that goes hand in hand with Dogmen. A lot of times when we're talking about it, a lot of people think that I'm not going to say all of them, but not all the people, but some people think that all the Dogmen are demonic. What do you think about that?
I mean, I would tend to disagree with that for sure. I mean, you definitely have. I'm not all in in anything like that, unless it's like the Bruins or the Patriots. I don't just put both of my feet into the cauldron. All right, meaning, sure, you have some cases. Yeah, you have others where people, have been grabbed by it, but it lets you go. Other people have just been observed. I mean, at the end of the day, if this thing really wanted you and it was just nefarious all the time, why would it have let somebody go if they're just going to hold your shoulder for a second? Or why would it just chase you 15, 20 feet and then let you run away? It doesn't really mean logical sense, seeming that if a tiger wants you, unfortunately, when you look at the statistics in India, the tiger gets you. It doesn't just stop, okay? That is, well, again, a tiger isn't different, okay? It's not, humans put the twist of, oh my goodness, this tiger is evil. No, it's not evil. It's just doing what a tiger is supposed to do, and you are perceived to be food. Yet, if we're going to use that same twist, if it was hungry, it would come and get you. If it really wanted to smoke you, it would still come and get you. Why did it just more or less troll you? When you troll somebody, that's not necessarily nefarious behavior. That could just be straight up entertainment aspect.
Oh yeah, I think that us humans are great entertainment for the cryptids out there. They love us. They do. That's why I'm a proponent of staying back at base camp when we're out with our team doing field research. I don't mind staying back at base camp and hanging out, doing the comms, like our radios and stuff, and hanging out with whoever's doing that, because we get more activity, just as much or more activity when it comes to cryptids and high strangeness at the base camp while everybody's gone, because we are their entertainment. And they like to come in and watch us and throw rocks and stuff like that. And it's pretty fun. Okay. And y'all know I live for this. Okay. I live for this stuff. But Sovereign says, werewolves, dogmen, guardians of black magic. It's demonic, he says. And yeah, I think it's just a mix. Okay. I think it's a mix. When it comes, I would be more inclined to say that like some things that are like brought here through black magic might be more negative, of course. But people like our friend William Nighthawk over at Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast, he says that he's told me that cryptids are I'm going to say conjured, okay, but cryptids are summoned, I guess is a better word, to places like these Indian burial mounds, like Etowah burial mounds, and places like that, places that are sacred to guard the land at all costs. Any kind of sacred land, right?
That's what I'm saying right there. And that wouldn't necessarily make you good or evil. Guard the land right there. Yes. Right.
They're guardians, y'all. Okay, guardians. And we actually have I see some werewolves in the chat tonight. Okay, some people who have actually sent me messages and let me know they may be werewolves and stuff. Okay, so shout out to you guys in the chat tonight. Thank y'all for being here. And I mean, how would we know who's a werewolf and who's not? I did a show not too long ago, kind of going down the list of like how to tell if somebody might be a werewolf. Okay, and but I mean, it could be anybody, right, Kenny? What do you think?
Yes, it's definitely one of those aspects where you're not going to really be able to, per se, I think, just naturally tell, like in a Hollywood movie, all right? Meaning, how vampires are always pale and seemingly just look as if they're perfect, etc. I don't know. It's definitely a very interesting topic for sure. Meaning, I've covered it before where I know people claim, per se, that vampires exist, and I'm actually talking to somebody tomorrow on that. But then also, like I had spoke to you before, when I think of the term vampire, I think of True Blood, like Bill Compton and Eric Northman with the supernatural huge strength, where they just take out 3 special forces soldiers with one swipe. The heads go rolling across the floor and stuff. But then the logical side and the side of me that tries to stay grounded and stuff looks at how just consuming a fluid, how could that be beneficial? Meaning, if you look at like vampire bats, they're so small that they can actually sufficiently survive off that. But then if you look at every other animal species, whether it's aquatic or land-based or air-based, not one of them just consumes a liquid for survival, And that's where it's like, okay, you have some people that claim they are actually, needing this life force, but then I do know I've seen monster quests before and stuff to test with these individuals that are claiming this, yet when they test them after when they've supposedly consumed the blood and stuff, nothing changes, more or less, meaning, is it them psychologically thinking this, or I don't know. It's just so interesting, and I think that's just what draws me to the topic as a journalist. Just all of this, meaning you have the scientific side, which I love science, but you can't always just blindly follow science. But yet you use science, as a guideline, meaning
Trust
if
it, right?
yes, if something in nature occurs, it doesn't just occur in one species, okay? Meaning if you look at every species when something occurs, well, you can see it occurring in different variants. Okay, so that's what I mean about using those details and those analytics to then form opinions. But then now, when it comes to the supernatural and things like that, it's really hard to be able to point your finger on it. Meaning, in the modern day world, from what I understand, what I've been taught, what I see, does Eric Northman and Bill Compton from True Blood, those vampires exist? I have not ever gathered analytics to support that. Yet here I've gathered plenty of analytics to support potential paranormal activity involving the Dogman. So who's to say that there isn't extra paranormal activity being construed up like that, if that makes sense?
It does. It does. And this is interesting. Brian Barber says maybe they are neutral, which is scarier because they don't have to conform to the rules of good or bad.
Yes.
It's however you feel minute by minute. God, wouldn't that be? That's just a free thought. It's like you feel so wild and free.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because good
Yeah.
and evil is a human
Construct. That's
yes
right.
that we put
It's all
on things.
relative.
Yes, we
I
always have
often
to
say
have a
that.
human trait to things, meaning look at how we put
Yeah.
coats on our dogs, or we paint our dogs' fingernails, or just everything has to have a human twist on something. And meaning when we see something, we always got to put like the human characteristics on it as well. Interesting.
We do. And when people, I've actually said that several times. They're like, well, is it good or bad, evil or whatever? I'm like, well, there's light and there's dark. And, it's some, it's like, you got to know the dark. There's got to be the dark for the light. It's all a balance, and this and that. It's all relative. And I don't know. But that's a great comment. I really appreciate that, Brian. Thank you for saying that tonight. There's not a lot of, well, if you go to YouTube, you see a lot of, even tonight on my channel, I titled it the North Georgia Werewolf Attack. Okay, because it says we talked about an attack of a little boy, that's been given to the North American Dogman Project. I try not to make a habit of doing shows or like Dogman Attack, mauled to death, and all this kind of stuff. But there's a lot of channels that are like, oh, there's always a Dogman attack constantly.
Clickbait, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's kind of, I won't say it's kind of clickbaitish, right? But it gets the views, obviously, and people. What does Vic kind of always said? Well, it's because everybody loves a train wreck, right? Everybody loves to see a wreck or whatever, and that's kind of the truth. But that's really not the case for a lot of these reports, right? They're not really all violent like that.
No, you're totally spot on with that for sure. It's just one of those things that it's okay though. It's not a bad thing to have a clickbait title if what you're covering is in that premises. It's like a newspaper, okay? I mean, as a content creator, you need to also market yourself. And same thing with, like I said, an article or even when I watch ESPN and such, they are always going to glam up the title of the video a little bit more, meaning as a Brady fan, they might seem like, oh, Brady's going to drop this big diss or something. But then when you watch it, it's not Brady dropping a diss at all. Brady's talking still. You see what I'm saying? But that's the whole, you got to do that though, as basically your own marketing division. I mean, that's what we really all are.
Oh yes. Well, we got to bring the viewers in sometimes, right? And I guess that's where they're going with that, and that's fine. But it kind of gives Dogmen a bad name. I'm just
Oh yes,
saying.
1,000.
Because I'm a undeservedly a bad name when it comes to that, and so it's just putting it out there. It's just a thought there. No shade to anybody, y'all. Okay, and so wait. Sovereign says guardians of minds and whatever they claim as a mind. There's human meat numbs, deep underground military bases. Okay, I'm behind on the comments, so I'm not sure what you're referring to, but um, some cryptids are guardians of the minds. I know I've talked about that when it comes to Bigfoot, Sasquatch. It seems as though they have an affinity for gold mines for some reason, and they're often seen at gold mines, especially up in Alaska. And so yeah, that's an interesting point. And these deep underground military bases, a lot of the times these national parks where I do a lot of my research at national parks, state parks, and I've been given some, blind coordinate remote viewing targets of sightings and encounters that happen at national parks sometimes. And I usually stumble across a deep underground military base. Okay. These are blind targets. I have no idea what I'm looking at, but it seems to be some kind of deep underground military base at a lot of these parks. Do you think there's a connection? I mean, I'm pretty sure you probably do, but between the Dogmen and the deep underground military bases and stuff?
I mean, there's always that potential with everything, meaning humans have a knack for thinking we can control things or want to control the narrative or more or less play God. So, I mean, I don't really see any reasoning why something like that couldn't be occurring. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's like when we think that we can reintroduce, say, a species to nature or cull nature. Oh, there's too many deer, there's too many predators. But at the end of the day, that's the human perspective, meaning if nature thinks there's too many coyotes around or there's too many deer, it's going to take care of that. That's why nature is successful. If the nature still wanted dire wolves and other saber-toothed tigers and things to still be around, they would be. All right. If nature wanted the megalodon to still be in the ocean, per se, I mean, I know some people think that it could be kicking around, yet there's a lot of evidence supporting the great white shark filled that niche inside of nature in that ecosystem, and they actually outcompeted the megalodon, which again, the moral of the story is these extinct animals and things, well, nature fixes itself. So if there's too much of this or they wanted this creature around still, it would be around, okay? But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it doesn't want them around still, or we would have Tyrannosaurus Rex that would have survived whatever extinction event occurred to it. But obviously, nature had other things in mind.
Or hear me out, or aliens might have taken them out at some point. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
interesting too.
I think that is a high probability. And speaking of which, Floyd says, "Thank you, Floyd." Says, "I was told aliens are real while I was in the military. The problem is religions would be destroyed once if the public knew about aliens." And yeah, I think that's part of the problem with the disclosure movement. Not there's a problem with the disclosure movement. We are full disclosure over here on my channel, but in conversations I've had with some pretty smart people, people on my teams and stuff, we've had these discussions, and the consensus is, we first of all we are the disclosure. Okay, we are, and the government will not. This is for entertainment purposes only. The government's not going to admit to something that they can't control. Okay, they
Yeah.
have no control over that, over the ETs and their presence here, and so that's that. Now let's go back to our last. We've got one more werewolf report. Okay, down in Tifton, Georgia. Okay, and I wanted to go over this because I wanted to make some connections down here in Tifton. Okay, and so let's look on the map real quick. I'll show the audience where Tifton is if I can find it. We're going to go a little farther south now. Well, here's Tift County. Okay, this is where Tifton is. This is down in South Georgia. Now, if you look at this map, I'm going to show you where the Okefenokee Swamp is. And now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you will know that I did cover the giant attack of the Okefenokee Swamp of 1829. That was given to me as a remote viewing target. Now I see this where Tifton is right there. And then let's look at the Okefenokee Swamp. And this map, it's around the same, it's right there. And that's where these giants were. So a lot of people claim that those were actually Sasquatches. That were the giants that attacked that hunting party of men. 5 men died wandering out into the Okefenokee Swamp down in South Georgia. A family had won a land lottery down there in 1829. A dad and the son decided to wander off into the swamp to see what all was out there. Packed up for they're going to be gone for about a week. And they ended up finding 20-something inch human footprints out in the swamp. They got spooked, went back home. Word got around, of course, and some hunters, bounty hunters, actually, I think, but some hunters from Florida heard about it, came up, demanded they take them out there to find out whatever that gigantic footprint came from. And when they got out there, they were ambushed eventually by a giant, and their heads were popped off and body parts were strewn everywhere. And I think 1 or 2 of the guys survived out of 7, I think, and ran back to tell what happened. But nonetheless, I remote viewed that. I think there were giant humans that were down there, and someone had asked about the giant, burial mounds being related to the werewolves, and that goes back to the Native American curses or the Native American blessings, however you want to look at it, on the land down there. There is a connection, I think, but nonetheless, let's get into this story, because this is the last one I was going to go over tonight. This is in Tifton, Georgia, on February the 25th of 2023. Another 2023 werewolf sighting. A woman was taking a walk in a park with her little dog. She heard strange noises and her dog went crazy. She looked, and a 7 to 8 foot tall werewolf started walking towards her, hunched over. She grabbed her dog and took off running. And she ran past some teenagers who saw the creature too. They all panicked and ran away, startling the creature. And the werewolf didn't chase them, they said. Okay. And I also want to show you guys where Emily Isabella, by the way, this is close to where Emily Isabella Burt is buried as well. It's not too far from there. And she's in Talbot. Well, it's a little bit far. It's a little bit north of there. So this is where, it's not as close as I thought it was. That's where Emily Isabella Burt is buried, Georgia's werewolf. And this is down in Talbot. So it's a little bit farther, actually, than I thought. But this is where this happened, right there, same place where the Okefenokee giant attack happened in 1829. I've got a friend, Barb, who I met at the Molina Bigfoot Festival. Barb was telling me that she's from there, from this area. She said, after I did that show, she said, well, it's known that there's a race of giants. People that live down there said that there's actually a race of giants that lived out in the swamp. So, I don't know. Hi, Strangus. Kenny, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts on the Tifton werewolf down there?
Wow. That is, again, some very interesting stuff for sure. And I think it just falls into the line of, is it truly a werewolf, or was it just that terminology that someone used, werewolf, meaning was it a dogman? Or, yeah, it's another one of those interesting cases that you just have to wonder if we're just potentially mixing up stuff. At the end of the day, it would be great to know if dogmen and werewolves are totally separate, which we do believe they are. Yet I think at points in time, people just use that term openly a lot.
They do. Well, they look a lot alike. Okay. And I think that the word dogman probably wasn't around so much back in the 1800s and stuff too. And dogman, I mean, when did people start calling dogmen? Do you know?
Yeah, that's like pretty much granted to Linda Godfrey for sure.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
sweet.
Drewski just texted me too. Drewski.
I think I just got a text from him too.
That's so awesome. Yeah, he's got he's got us up. That's what he's showing us. Good stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Linda Godfrey is pretty much the one that started the term dogman. And she even later on said that she wishes she didn't use that terminology, more or less, because it kind of gets people thinking of a dog. Like, hey, this is a nice dog man, but no, it's more or less like a wolf man per se, for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I was going to ask. This is great. This is actually a great comment in from Leah. She says there is another cave entrance down and to the left of that area in Georgia. That's something that Georgia has a lot of. Those are caves. Now, where do people believe, like as far as like your stance or the North American Dogman's, from all the reports y'all have gotten, where do y'all think dogmen live? Like, are they living in cave systems?
Again, super very valid question right there. I think they're living in burrows and such to an extent, but then again, if you are, basically traveling per universe more or less, then you're probably not living anywhere. If you're just like, doing a pit stop here on Earth, more or less, it's probably just like a subway. You stop here, you go off. Oh, this looks interesting, more or less. But now, if you're going to say maybe more physical based and that they're actually here all the time, well, if they're an animal, they could use caves to an extent. Yet the problem is there's a ton of poisonous elements in caves, gases and things that even if it's a baboon or a hyena, if it needs to breathe air, then it's not going to be able to consistently travel huge long distances, in caves. But then you have the cave bear, per se, that spent 90% of its life in the cave. Yet how far in the cave was it going, though? Is it just kind of on the surface parts, or is it going deeper, per se, where these gases would be? If it's something paranormal based, it really doesn't need any sort of things that we need, like heat or food sources, so it can just kind of come and go. And then, yeah, sure, that could live in an old abandoned cavern. Yet again, if it's flesh and blood, whether it's documented or not, it can't just survive in certain aspects, meaning you and I can't go into abandoned mines that have still water and other aspects because of the bacterias and things that we're not even going to see. But as soon as you inhale those, you're toast. And again, I'm not comparing everything that's flesh and blood to us, but meaning if you put a lion in there as well, that lion is still going to succumb to the same gases that you and I did. Meaning, here's an example. Recently, someone caught an enormous crocodile, and somebody thought it was pretty funny to paint the back of it with green paint. Well, what do you think happened to the crocodile? It succumbed to the fact that somebody put paint on its skin, and the paint and things went inside of the crocodile and poisoned it. So, same thing right there. Yeah, crocodile is a reptile. We are mammals. Yet it shows you right there that this crocodile still succumbed to toxic gases from this paint. So again, it wouldn't even be realistic for a reptile to be able to go into these areas in certain spots of the cave with these toxic gases, because they're going to succumb to that as well. So yes, do I think they could be using some of the more shallow surface based caves to travel? Yes, but if it's going to be flesh and blood and play by those rules where it needs to eat, it needs to breathe, it needs to drink water, which people have seen these things doing, then it would kind of have to play by the same rules of avoiding toxic gases and things. Because if you need to drink water, then things like ammonias and all these other smells and gases are going to affect you too.
Exactly. That's right. That is very intelligent. I like that. Okay, and that's very true. And Tammy was asking, does anybody know if Bigfoot or Dogman have been seen around Ball Ground, Georgia? I'm not exactly sure where Ball Ground is. I think is that up near. It's in North Georgia, I guess. So I don't know if it's anywhere near Tryon, Rome, or Paulden, or I don't know. Maybe I'm sure they have been, but you can go to the North American Dogman Project website, right, Kenny? And you can find out if you go click on their map. You have like an interactive map on there, don't you?
And like I would tell everybody, if there's a sighting in Georgia, there's a sighting in Maine, whether it's eastern Georgia, northern Georgia, southern Maine, Drewski, they
That's up
are
there.
going to be in the rest of the state too. They're not just going to come across some magic line and be like, "Oh, I made it to Central Ohio." No, I'm not heading up to Northeast Ohio anymore. So I just
Right.
think they probably haven't just been documented in that area.
Yes, they know no bounds. They know no boundaries and county lines or anything like that. Cowie says, or the dog-headed men that traded with the Native Americans. Yes,
Cynocephali, yeah.
Cynocephali go back for centuries. I mean, they're actually on the Piri Reis map, I believe, 1530 or 1513. I can't remember. Centuries ago. Okay, we're talking a long time ago. They've probably been here a lot longer than that, actually. But nonetheless, actually, something that I forgot to mention. We were talking about Rome when we were talking about all the high strangeness in Rome, Georgia, and the werewolf. That's where the werewolf attacked that child and grabbed it by the neck. Now, did you guys get any? Before I go here, did you guys get an update on that report by any chance? Like, what happened to that family and what happened to that kid?
That is a very good question. And as far as I know, we have not. That is something that we do run into a lot, meaning you get the report, you get to hear what's going on, yet a part of healing is trying to come to peace with what occurred, but yet you don't want to continuously dive into that and consistently talk about it. So I feel like even the case up here I talked about with Steve Stockton, where the young girl got attacked and she's traumatized and her mother lost a piece of her finger trying to fight this thing off. They told their story once and it's documented that they went to the hospital for these wounds. Yet, as a part of healing, you need to let those things go, more or less. Yet, you have to come to peace with it and conquer it and tell people about it that it occurred. You want to, at the end of that, if you ever want to heal, you don't always want to talk about it. Some people have no problem talking about it, but then others, like the Martin family, tell their encounter, they put it behind them, and that's that. No one's ever heard from the Martins again, besides their one time they covered that story. They've never been on podcasts. They haven't come back up here to speak to anybody. They spoke to Paranormal Witness. That was it, and that's what I mean about basically needing to heal yourself. They went to the darkness, they conquered it, they spoke about it, but then that's that. Like, now, do I want to wake up every day and relive this and consistently talk all the time about it? Probably not. Some people want to, others don't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's really hard for people to come forward to talk about these things too, and especially when you're seeing something that you were told was not supposed to exist, and then you got people saying you're crazy and all that kind of stuff. It's there's a stigma behind it,
Yes.
and so yeah, everybody handles trauma differently because it is traumatic, 100%. And Tammy says it's okay. So Ball Ground, Georgia, is just east of Rome and northeast of Mountain State Park. Okay, so that is in this area where all these werewolves are being seen, not too far from there. So I would say there's a high probability that you got werewolves out there or dogmen up there in that area. Now, I did want to show this before we go tonight. Of course, I have a picture of the statue of Romulus and Remus. And this is actually on the courthouse. I think this is the courthouse. It's the city hall, I guess, of Rome, Georgia. And this is called I think you pronounce it, the Capitoline, the Capitoline wolf with Romulus and Remus stands in front of the historic city hall on Broad Street in downtown Rome. It's an exact replica of the art that stands at the Palazzo dei Conservatori. Okay, it's in Italian though. In Rome, Italy. And so this was sent over from Italy actually as a gift to Rome. It portrays a character from the mythical tale Romulus and Remus, has all the markings of modern day epic. The twins were sons of Mars, the god of war, and Rhea Silvia, the daughter of King Numitor of Alba Longa. King Numitor was overthrown by his brother Amulius, who then ordered Romulus and Remus to be cast into the Tiber River. They were rescued by a she-wolf who cared for them until a herdsman found and raised them. Romulus and Remus grew, and after reclaiming Alba Longa for King Numitar, the brothers began plans for a city near the site of their rescue on the banks of the Tiber. During a quarrel over the city's name, Romulus unalived Remus, and then he built the city, giving it this name. So these two boys were raised by a she-wolf. They were raised by a wolf. Okay, what are the odds of that too, with like Rome having werewolves? And then we've got this Romulus and Remus sitting here on the steps of the city hall.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, and what a strange welcoming statue, huh? I mean, what the heck?
I know, right? Is this a coincidence? I mean, I want to know what the audience is thinking. Is this a coincidence, y'all? What do y'all think? I mean, I think that it is, considering with, my good friend who went to a private school there in Rome and had some satanic ritual abuse that happened there. And then my friend, my mom's best friend, having a mysterious death and having all that stuff happening on that property out there with the elites and something private that, I don't know. It's all just very mysterious. Okay. And then the werewolf attack on that child, Booger Holler, Taylor's Ridge, all that stuff is all up there. It is just, there's too many things for this to be a coincidence at this point for me. That's my opinion. Okay. But maybe it is. I don't know. I don't believe in coincidences either, Tammy. Okay. But, yeah. Anyways, this has been just a fantastic show tonight, Kitty. I just want to thank you so much for being here tonight. And this is awesome. We could probably talk for another 3 hours or 2 hours. I know we could, but I'm not going to keep everybody here all night tonight. This has been a really great show tonight. We have a wonderful audience tonight. Gosh, these comments were going so fast tonight. I couldn't keep up. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman says, elites that use wolf code names or claim to have control of dogmen. It's no surprise, since it's always been known they worship Egyptian culture. Anubis is dogman. And yes, that is the best known dogman out there, I think, would be Anubis, right, Kenny?
Yeah, that's definitely got to be right up there with the Cynocephali for sure, or potentially like St. Christopher. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's very well known. And by the way, I was going to ask you this too before we go tonight as well. We have a lot of different types of dogmen. What is the most common type of dogman that the North American Dogman Project gets reports on out of this chart right here?
Yes, I actually have a chart too that I will send you that we have listed, potentially a little bit different. We have our type 1 that people say look like the Helsing or the Howling, and then you have your type 2, which is your German Shepherd one, and then your type 3, which is like your hyena, and then you got your type 4, which is like the baboon, and then you got your type 5, which is like the bear man, and then you have like your coyote man. Yet we have depictions and reports from all of those, but I would say the most common seem to be the hyena and the ones that look like giant wolves.
Oh my God, that's terrifying. The most common type is actually the hyena type.
Yes.
And I've gotten that too with a lot of people that I brought on my shows. It's usually they are described as looking like a hyena type, which actually to me, it makes me wonder if that could actually be a werewolf instead of a dogman. I don't know.
Creepy.
Because hyenas are not even dogs.
No, they're not at all. They're actually related to weasels and ferrets and mongooses and such. Yes.
Isn't that weird?
It's so
That
cool.
is just, it's wild. But it also kind of might circle back around to like maybe these are chimeras, and I mean I don't know what's what. Okay, but maybe some kind of weird hybrid experiment or some kind of super soldier or something like that as well. So yeah. Oh, speaking of dogs, I hear my dog crying. She needs some treats. Okay, and she usually does us around the end of the show every Saturday night. And but yeah, Kenny, please tell everybody where they can find you and about your YouTube channel and whatever else you got going on.
I appreciate you. Thanks for letting me hang out tonight. I do apologize for the little technological issue while I had to switch over in the sound quality for a second. Yet, yes, you can always check out Miss Jessica, myself, bi-weekly over here on the good old Midnight Lycanthropy thread, which is my podcast. My name itself on YouTube is Lord Starfox with an E, so Lorde Starfox. I do take a little bit of interest in the singer of Lord. Her creativity is pretty cool, which is why I put the E on the end of my name as well. That will bring you to my page too. Two easy ways right there, no pun intended. And yes, we just really dive into missing people. We dive into strange sightings, cave system disappearances and locations. We dive into strange footprints. I also like to really focus on modern day and prehistoric predator behaviorisms. Yeah, and just really trying to figure out what's going on and just get great people such as yourself to come over and hang out.
Oh, I love hanging out over there. We always have the most thought-provoking conversations, and we have a lot of fun too. And that's what it's all about. It's having fun and shining light on these weird topics, and because this stuff can be kind of dark. And speaking of which, something we didn't even talk about tonight are like the missing people, and that's kind of that's my soapbox that I stand on, are trying to figure out where all these people are going. Okay, all these missing people. And I've had people on the show like Nick Sylvester on. We talked about, werewolves being used by our government agencies or military or some kind of special black ops programs and stuff, as working for those agencies and doing things like kidnappings and assassinations and whatever they're being used for. This is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, but for whatever they're being used for, I mean, what do you think about that? I know I was about to wind it down. What do you think about them being used as assets?
Yeah, doggy. It's just one of those things for sure that anything that can be used to benefit a species will be used. I mean, over in India, you have monkeys that will take puppies and also canine pups and wolf pups and raise them as their own. So when they get older, they now have something to protect them. I mean, during points in time, we use dolphins and aquatic life to help us figure out mines in the ocean and things. So yeah, of course, anything that can be used as an asset, something is going to. I mean, look at like the cuckoo bird. It literally goes in and lays eggs in something else's nest and knocks all the eggs out and then tricks that bird into raising their eggs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a great point. Everything is weaponized, y'all. Okay, that's what I'm learning. Everything can and will be used against you, and everything is weaponized if it can be, and so 100%. Yeah, even You think Swifty could be weaponized?
Yeah,
Your
man, she can
squirrel?
be pretty vicious if she wants to be, for sure. Like when I need to
Yeah.
put her away and she's not impressed by that. Yeah, she could definitely pull some Conan the Barbarian ferret type stuff for sure.
Oh my gosh, you could definitely train her to be some sort of an assassin or something. The
I
ninja
wish I could train
squirrel.
her to edit all my podcasts. That would be
Oh, that's
beautiful.
the big thing, huh? Priorities. Priorities.
Right?
I love that. Oh my gosh. This has been so fun. What a great show tonight. Thank you so much, Kenny, for being here. And
Of
you guys,
course.
please go over to Midnight Lycanthropy on YouTube. Okay. That is Star Fox's. I mean, I say Kenny. Okay. I was like, do you want me to call you Kenny or Star Fox? I always call you
Same
Kenny.
difference.
And
Catch
a lot of
22.
a lot of people know you as Star Fox. And yeah, so I just feel like we go way back. So I just call you Kenny.
That
Okay.
we do. So
We do. But you guys, please go over to Midnight Lycanthropy and subscribe. Okay, subscribe and support Kenny's work. He is so creative, you guys, and has some wonderful guests and super intelligent conversations over there. If you guys are into Dogman and Werewolves, you're going to really enjoy Midnight Lycanthropy. And so yeah, so thank you, Kenny, so much. I also wanted to thank, before we go, I want to thank Dave Scott, of course, for the super sticker. Thank you, Dave, with Spaced Out Radio. Skip, thank you so much for the super sticker. And also, y'all, Larry Sharp has been a member for 1 whole year of the Hunt Club. Thank you so much, Larry.
Hell yeah.
That means the world to me. He says, happy Saturday, y'all, and prayers. Thank you, Larry. You are amazing. And if you guys want to become a member of the Hunt Club, it's my membership on YouTube, and I put exclusive videos out there for my members. So thanks again, Larry. And yeah, Kenny, do you have any final thoughts before we go tonight on our North Georgia werewolf attack?
No, just thanks again for letting me come hang out, and thanks for everyone who popped in tonight. And definitely give Jessica the good old like button, because YouTube, yeah, definitely doesn't think we're cool unless the rest of y'all do. But yes, stay safe out there and be good people, and that's really all you can do. Much love, everyone.
Yes, much love, everybody. Y'all, please come back and see me on Monday. I'll be back with a live show. It is going to be another good time, I promise. And thank you guys so much for sticking with us all night. And I hope everybody learned a little something. Please stay safe out there, y'all. Do not live in fear. Okay, I know there's a lot of weird crap going on in this world right now, but we're out there chasing them down and reporting back to y'all. And so just keep your head on a swivel, everybody. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys back here on Monday. All right, Kenny, let's see if I can find my buttons. Y'all have a very great night tonight, and thanks again. Oh, and by the way, Kenny's the one who made my intro and my extro videos, y'all. So, Kenny, thank you so much.
Of course.
These are compliments of Kenny, y'all.
What friends and teammates are for. Much love.
I love it. I love it. All right, y'all. Have a great night, and we'll see y'all on Monday. All right. Bye, y'all.